Hey guys, it's Mo from Mo in the Deep End and Fry, busy with a pig ear. And we are on day 3, which I know there's day 7, and we are woefully behind, but we are going at our own pace, which is okay sometimes. We are on Dr. Myers' testimony. I still believe we are on direct. So this Dr. Myers is a forensic psychologist. Now, I guess I was under the impression that both of the experts had talked to Ronan or Ty, depending on how he wishes to be called, which is fine. I think that he, after everything, Fryberto, stop, should have some autonomy based on how he wants to be called. But I was under the impression that either one of them had talked to the child when making their kind of analyses on the correctness or incorrectness of sort of the entire thing. Good morning, crime spies and pixies and reindeer and kitty boo boo. So that is where we are in the trial. I am going to try diligently to at least get us caught up this weekend. I know we will probably have a verdict before we get caught up, but that is just sometimes how life works when you have a large family. Family comes first. My youngest daughter's 13th birthday was this week, so things just come up. So we will start from there. I've sent out invites, but people have lives. So we may be doing this solo. Fry has abandoned me too. So we will go as things go. We'll play it by ear. Okay, now we're getting ready for the defense cross. Yeah, Fry, he just does not respect the amount of work that it takes to set up the camera. Hi, Goosebumps. Thanks for dropping in. It's hard to say, honestly. This case has been a roller coaster ride.
Good afternoon, Doctor.
Good afternoon.
Let me start with I have your list of testimony in cases, civil and criminal. It's a pretty extensive list. You've testified in Palm Beach County before, correct?
Yes,
And looks like all but one defendant, all were for the state. Is that correct?
I haven't reviewed it, but I'll take your word for it.
I'm happy to have you review it if you want.
Would anyone
trust
mind
you.
if we go to 1.25 since we are behind? If it's too fast for
And,
anyone, let me know.
Can you tell me what you're
and we
being
can always
compensated for
go
your
back
testimony here
down.
today?
I'm sorry.
How
what
much are you being compensated for your testimony?
I'm being compensated for my time, but $350 an hour.
All right. And how much time have
Okay.
you put into the preparation of your testimony here today? Approximately.
Preparation for testimony,
I'm going to break it down. Yes, testimony.
I would say in the neighborhood of 5 hours.
All right. And in addition to that, any other preparation that you did, how much time did you put in?
Reviewing the records, I have a sheet on my office desk. I'm going to estimate it's probably in the ballpark of probably 8 hours, 9 hours of record review to get through all the
Fry.
materials, which I tried to reread as much as I could in the last day or
Holy
two.
water. Stop. The squirt
But
bottle
there's
works
a
for
lot
the
of
cats.
information.
It works for
Yeah,
you.
we'll get to what you reviewed in a minute, but I appreciate your answer. I'm looking at your CV, very extensive, thick CV because it has all the publications that you wrote, plus those which you've contributed to, correct?
Yes.
I'm going to go through a few here. I noticed going back a little ways. In 94, you wrote one called Sexual Homicide by Adolescents.
Yes.
Staying with the 90s, 95, you wrote one called The Psychopathology, Biopsychopathology Factors, Crime Characteristics, and Classification of 25 Homicidal Youth.
Yes.
Staying with the 90s.
Well, that's
You wrote one
I
called
do that
"The
myself, but I
Psychopathology
always
and
like to ask
Personality in Juvenile
because
Sexual Homicide Offenders."
Yes.
I don't like to
In
just
2000, you wrote one
I am not the
with a
dictator of
co-author
this
called "Anger, Experience, and
channel.
Styles of
This is
Expression
a
Among Juvenile
everyone
Sexual
channel.
Homicide Offenders."
Yes.
Jump forward a little. 2002, I see one, "The Sexual Assault of Boys Incarcerated in Jails."
Yes.
2005, "Personality Comorbidity in Adolescent Females with ADHD."
Yes.
I know you wrote that with others. I'm just trying to move it along, though. There's one that you wrote with somebody else in 2006, "The Motivation Behind Serial Sexual Homicide. Is it sex, power, and/or control or anger?"
Yes.
2008, "The Relationship Between Serial Sexual Murder and Autoerotic Asphyxiation."
Yes.
I tried that
David
word twice. and
Carradine, I'm
didn't get
looking
it.
at you.
Jumping forward a little, 2012, "Adolescent Parricide and Psychopathy."
A psychopathy. Yes.
Psychopathy, thank you. What's parricide?
The murder
Thank
of
you
a
so much,
parent by a
Goosebump
child.
801. Reindeer, my only guess can be that the defense is going to assert that his speciality is more in parapsychopathies, uh, dealing with sexual depravities and uh, well, sociopathies. But that it seems like he has a speciality or a focus, at least in his early work on well, sexual crimes, sexual homicides, things like that. I don't know. That can be I have no idea what this man's doing. He seems like he's been discombobulated at most of this trial. He's having a Mo moment most of this trial. Like, is it February yet? Like, that's kind of how he's felt most of this trial. He's pulled a Mo.
You wrote a book as well.
I did. Yes.
It's hard to get, but I got your book.
It's out of print.
It's out of print, but someone still had it. It's called "Juvenile Sexual Homicide." It's a 2002 book.
Yes.
Hi, Snivels.
And you've also contributed.
Welcome, MLS.
Hello, hello. How are you?
Pretty good. It's finally fall, so I can wear all my flannels.
I've been wearing them all summer. I don't know what you guys are doing.
Well, I don't like to sweat.
Hey, everybody in chat, hello. I'm stuck in the office, but I thought I'd join for a bit. I'll just type away in the background while we watch the This Case is Ridiculous, in my opinion.
What? Yeah, he is the blue lawyer chicken from Futurama. He's the space chicken lawyer, but
I
I
love
don't know where he's
Futurama.
going
I
with.
missed that show.
It's back on Hulu. I need to do a review of the new episodes, but I only need 8 more of me and an assistant to get all the work I have done.
Yeah, I know, right? But cool. So
Yeah.
what day are we on? Day 3?
We are
Okay.
on day 3, and it's now the state has produced its expert. And what I believe the defense is trying to do here is show that his particular area of expertise is in sexual pathologies and leading to homicide and different things, because a lot of his papers and books seem to be focused on sexual psychopathies and different things like that.
Fine.
And that has, I don't know. This lawyer he is perpetually in like a state of Mo, or my state of Mo this week, like a day late and a dollar short. I swear to God. So he's
I
like,
heard,
I
I
just got,
haven't been watching this so much, but I heard the prosecution, not the Well, I don't know. I heard the prosecution was just trying to pull some stuff. Have they been shady at all? I
They've
want to
been
put it
using a
past them.
lot of they've been using a lot of emotion. They've been not egregiously, in my opinion. They've been shading things. And I think had Ronan, the victim, not testified the way he testified, I think they would have been able to shade things a lot better in their case. But if
I
you
might be
haven't heard,
thinking of court TV that said that it was a cage. Now, maybe it wasn't the prosecutor that was referring
well,
it to it as a cage.
they kept calling it a cell, a box, a
Yeah,
cube, a cell. So I mean, they
which
have
it's
been
not.
shading it. Well, no, but I mean, they haven't been doing anything super egregious in my point, but they have been shading in the way the state will. I mean, so it's not been egregious, but the defense has tried to pull some fast ones too. So I mean,
Well, I
you
give them
can't.
all the leeway possible.
Well,
Fast one.
yeah,
Okay,
but yeah.
cool. Well, I won't
All right,
distract you from your trial anymore.
all right.
Contributed in chapters in other books, correct?
I have.
So for example, current perspectives on conduct disorder, and that was for the Adolescent Medicine State of the Art Review.
Yes.
Serial offending in childhood,
Yes.
the juvenile justice system, delinquency, and the juvenile court.
Yes.
So you've written extensively on, seems a lot of your focus is on when juveniles commit crimes. That's a bulk of your work of study, correct?
Really, it's been more in the area of homicide, and often probably the majority of the homicide research I've done has been with children, meaning people under the age of 18.
Who commit homicides.
Yes.
And you're in those articles I've looked at in your book, you examine the types of maybe common traits or commonalities that might help inform one on a child who's growing up that might commit crimes.
Well, yeah, you hope that it would have some impact on predicting it in children to avoid or help cut down the number of murders in the future. Yes, that would be the ultimate aim.
So there's and in a couple of the articles, and in fact in your book, you go through some checklists of the types of those common factors, correct?
Yes.
Pulling out of your book, let's see here.
Approach.
It got quiet all of a sudden.
They're having a sidebar. So I think the prosecutor is getting pissed off that the defense is trying to. So a lot of the victims' prior bad acts, like all the crimes, semi-crimes, stealing credit card numbers, things like that, were kept out of this trial. And I think the defense is like, oh, well, a lot of your, books are about juveniles that commit crimes. So, what's a parent to do when a juvenile's committing all these crimes?
Well, and that's the underlying issue. Well, what the state would want you to do is go to the state.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is, again, where I'm finding a disconnect is I'm covering the Richard Allen case where the state is saying for his safety he has to be in solitary confinement, and we see the absolute degradation of this man, who, again, if he's guilty, sentence him to life.
Yeah.
I don't care.
All right, you may
But
continue, Mr. Wahid.
he's
Thank you.
not been found guilty yet.
Thank you, Judge.
He's supposed to be presumed innocent. So for his safety, we're keeping him locked up.
Yeah, I don't
Talk a
agree
lot
with
about psychopathy.
any
on
bond
direct.
stuff like that.
There is a thing called a PCLR, correct?
Yes.
And what is that?
That is the psychopathy checklist, and it's 20 items that you rate to get an idea of how
Is
much
this
of a really a criminal
Prosecutor's
personality you
witness,
have.
I'm assuming.
And
Yes,
a
this is the
score of 0 to
prosecutor's
40.
witness.
some of those items on the checklist are
Let me have you approach.
No, God. People can't
Yeah,
work
that's
out the deals. Trying to get my other
cool.
camera set up. I finally found it.
Oh, you're no problem. I'm still trying to work. I need to take a day when I have one and just practice with the remote control and the camera to get better at it. You know, those free days I have.
There we go. Right.
Woohoo!
Do I look handsomer now?
Yes.
That's what it's all about. This is about you guys being able to see me in the best quality possible.
Well, we do pay for that. I'm still waiting for my Sarah Boone money I was promised. I've been told it's in the mail.
Your Sarah Boone money?
You know, because it's an international case and a racket and such.
Oh, yes. Everyone's making money off of her. Yeah, I am waiting
Mr.
for that
Wahid, you may
too.
proceed.
Is that Gary Busey in the background?
No, that's the Gary Busey. That's the lesbian mother-in-law
So,
on that.
Again, on direct examination, you
We're
discussed
horrible people. We're
psychopathy,
both
correct?
going to purgatory.
I
I don't
recall
play
that I did.
Scrabble. Just to let you know.
Do you?
But I'd be
is-
willing to learn
Did
Dungeons
you
and Dragons.
make any opinion today about connecting psychopathy with what happened in this case?
In the defendant,
That's
Yes.
a big question.
did I rate the level of psychopathy in Mr. Farrader?
Nope. Did you say that the types of environment that that
Just
was
defense
in
counsel?
this situation
Yes.
that he had at his home, that it could have it has an impact on a child's psychopathy?
As I recall, I used the word psychopathology, meaning mental illness, not psychopathy, something very different.
All right, so the objection is sustained. You need to move on, Mr. Wahid.
Ooh.
Let me ask you about things you reviewed.
He read it wrong.
You reviewed, so the state provided you a list of items, correct?
Yes,
About 95 pages of items, included witness statements.
yes.
When you say witness statements, did that include the statements the witnesses made during the trial?
No,
Did you observe those or read those in any way?
no.
And when I'm saying witnesses, I'm being specific to RF and FF.
And forgive me, I've been using his first name.
Yes.
Should I say RF?
It can be confusing a little on the names. So I'm going to go with,
Okay.
So you did not watch or hear or read those trial testimonies.
What I had was their the child protection team interviews, and then his statements to the police in the beginning, and then their depositions I read as well.
Okay. And you were provided by the defense a list of other items electronically. Did you review any of those?
I believe I made it through all of those.
Okay,
A lot of them were repeats of what I had received from the state attorney's office.
sure, that's possible. So that
18.
included early childhood records.
Yes,
It
TV,
included
this is a
his
case of
school
where the
records.
state is trying to tell people how to parent.
Yes.
Yes. So this family moved from Arizona. They adopted this child at the age of 17 months from Vietnam. The child was, I believe, surrendered to the orphanage at 7 months or 9 months. I am not quite sure on the date.
14
Now,
months.
okay, there we go.
I think that's what it is. If it
So-
matters.
Yeah, they were in Arizona. The child started having behavioral problems. He is exceptionally bright. Now, they decided the behavior problems escalated from, jailbreaking the computer at his school to look up disturbing images, going into his sister's classroom, stating that he was at liberty to make an announcement, berating his sister, taking a box cutter or some kind of tool to school, memorizing and stealing the credit card number information from a friend when he was allegedly tutoring her at their home. Uh, Again, running away,
He's like an
giving
extreme
his
problem child, and
yeah.
the problem is the why they're being prosecuted, why the parents are being prosecuted, is because they essentially built him a room in the garage. It had air conditioning and everything like that, but they put a lock on it. Okay, many kids' rooms have locks on them, although apparently it was only unlockable from the outside. And they said basically they kept him in a cage or a dungeon or a box. This is the Box Boy case, which
Yes.
he'd been running away, he'd been stealing stuff, but at the end of the day, it's a bedroom. So yeah, and maybe it is shit parenting, as Bobby says, but it's not illegal to be a shitty parent. Like the child wasn't abused; he's not physically abused. He wasn't malnourished. He was still eating. He was still going to school. You know, all this stuff was going on. He just, hey, we're going to continue in this other room, and not, you're not sharing a bedroom with your other brothers and sisters because you have problems.
The charge is false imprisonment, child abuse, and neglect. Now, the other problem is that there's a major disconnect. I came into this story. I generally read like a really short article and I kind of read it to you guys before a case, and then I kind of come in blind. But the mainstream media reporting on this case has been like boy in a cage, boy in a box. Uh, so it's it sets you up to think that he was in there for 24 hours a day. So you already go in with a certain preconceived notion. Now, what you will see at the beginning is that he did have posters. Look, I think the family was dumb from the get-go to not buy a house that had an area, all the rooms, enough rooms for the entire family. I think that was
Sorry, I was
dumb.
muted.
Oh no, you're
I was going to say the family was dumb for not buying a house, but that had a cage inside the house and not in the garage.
that old family house with padded walls already built into it. Where is that house with the crazy aunt that's already getting sold?
All right.
Yeah, the thing is that the defense hasn't. I am way behind. The defense hasn't started to put on their case yet, so we only know the state side. The defense has alluded to in their opening statement that these parents were at their wit's end. They had just moved to Florida. They've been given the runaround by experts, thrown pills at the problem, and they were afraid for the younger children's safety because he was getting kind of rough and again gave his 4-year-old brother beer as an experiment. If you haven't followed this case, I believe day 2 is when the victim in this case testifies, and I won't give my opinion on it. I think that you should listen to it yourself because it is enlightening, and I think it's it'll,
But here's the thing, Indigo. Then they would have been charged with child abandonment.
yeah. So
And if this child did something truly heinous to somebody else, then under the Crumbly theory, they could be charged with the child's crime. Like these parents are in a no-win situation, right? Unless you go to the
yeah.
state. Remember, this is all about the state wanting you to go to it to take care of all your problems.
And then there were charges of child neglect that he wasn't getting fed, but during his testimony when, he was complaining during the state's, direct that he was only fed certain foods, there was a caveat that a pediatrician had said that they were to limit sugar because some of his hyperactivity could have been because of too much sugar. He also stated that he is or was a practicing pescatarian at the time. So, if the I can't, it's hard for me to square a circle where a family is so mean that they're locking this child in a cage And they're also dealing with him being a pescatarian and honoring that diet choice.
Well,
Look,
it's like
I think
nothing
it's
these parents did could have helped them in this situation. The state decided to charge them, and it doesn't matter what they did, what they could have done in the alternative, other than maybe not adopt this kid in the first place, that would have fixed the situation.
well, and that's what I guess that's the squaring of the circle I'm not getting. So if the parents, and look, it's crappy parenting. Would I have done this? No, I would have probably sent, it would have been an outward bound, Dr. Phil camp better behavior or whatever
I would
kind of
have beat
thing.
him. Just to, I mean, you can use corporal punishment as
Allegedly.
long as you don't injure the child. There would have been a lot of corporal punishment, more so than what these parents have done.
Listen, allegedly, as a millennial who identifies as a Gen Xer, if I had done any of this crap with my mother, you would have still been visiting Mo in the ICU, okay? I am just saying, because Gen X parents of Gen Xers did not play.
No.
Like, I know my friends lost doors to their room. I mean, they lost, everything was bagged up. Like, they had, a bed, they had a sheet, you know, a parent, they did not play. And so it's again, you get, I don't know if this psych or this therapist has children, but, when asked how to discipline a child, or yeah, discipline a child, he's like, "Well, gentle, therapeutic ways to, you know, adapt their behavior." I was like, "Imma send him a Griffin Think It Over stuffed full of sugar, and I'm gonna have him gentle parent him." Because when you have a feral, shirtless Viking child, sometimes, you know, gentle parenting is. Yeah, so again, they did not, for the bajillionth and 100 billionth time, they did not make the right choices.
Yeah, Paige, today that would have been like some sort of weird child abuse sort of thing. You're emotionally abusing the kid, you're making him sleep on a mattress that could hurt his back. I don't know. But my point is that if the state wants to say it's abuse and wants to charge you, they're going to. This kid was not physically injured, not malnourished, not missing school. He was literally sleeping in a room out in the garage. That was the big difference.
Indigo, the only thing that would have been better is if you'd put bacon on that cheeseburger and make it a bacon cheeseburger. All right, back to Mr.
Yes.
And
So,
that
T-Ray,
would
you're
also be
caught
from
up now.
Basis Academy, correct?
That's how
Yeah.
we got derailed.
And that would also include those emails between the teacher and the parents.
Yes.
You also reviewed disciplinary records and other school records from Immaculate Heart.
Yes, I did.
You also reviewed clinical summary in April 22 from Kenny Miller,
Yes.
and that was on the reactive attachment disorder issue, correct?
Yes.
You also reviewed the records of Dr. Thomas Rickenbacker.
I did.
You reviewed other medical records, pediatric medical records.
Yes.
Did you
Mo, why
review
am I
any of
getting
the
no alerts for you?
photographs?
I don't
did.
know.
I have
Did you
all.
review the
I didn't get
family
that
counseling
you were going
associate
live.
records?
Yes.
I have been I don't know. Is it because I'm a redhead? I really think there's discrimination. Taking this to the UN.
And there were some other records in there, though, that might go beyond the scope of what you testified to. So if they come up, I'll come back to those.
Okay.
I have no idea. I had to look up what a pescatarian was because I thought it was something like Episcopalian. I was like, I thought they were Catholic.
You did not actually evaluate, correct?
I did not.
And you never asked to evaluate.
I asked if it was possible. Yes, I did.
And what were you told?
Let me have you approach on that.
I can reword it.
Okay, reword it in a way that does involve hearsay.
Sure. Based on the information you received, you then could not evaluate. You believe you could not evaluate.
True.
All right. And so obviously without actually evaluating, you can't do anything in terms of diagnosis of him.
Based on the extensive records, my observations of him on the videotapes, teacher observations, et cetera, I believe he has PTSD.
Well, is that your independent diagnosis or based on somebody else's diagnosis?
It's mentioned on occasion in the records, but my independent assessment would be that he does have PTSD. Yes.
Well, but as a psychiatrist, is it not correct that you ethically under
Good luck on
the
your
rules
Zoom
are not
call.
allowed to make a diagnosis of an individual without actually conducting an examination and an evaluation on your own under section 7.32 of the Principles of Medical Ethics for the American Psychiatric Association.
Hey,
Ethics Committee.
Nicholas.
Hey, Nicholas.
It's not a hard and fast rule. And in fact, in forensic psychiatry, sometimes we're asked to review records of someone
Ooh,
who has
more
passed
shrimp.
away.
Pescatarian,
One
you
reason
eat
for
fish
one
only.
reason-
Yeah,
one
so
reason
I
or
use
another
it as an
by
excuse to eat like a bunch of
the
shrimp.
diagnostic assessment.
And it's not
Shrimp
someone
and
who's passed
crab
away,
legs.
correct?
I'm there,
Correct.
but
And when
if
you
you
say it's
dip
not
it
hard and
all in
fast rule, it's
butter, I
actually
don't know
written
that it's
rules,
healthier
correct?
for
Can we
you.
go over the language of it?
Sure. In order to arrive at it,
Sustain, show them what rule you're referring to. You can approach. What was the last part of this? Let's show it to the state first, and then you can show it to the witness. Thank you, Mr. Wahid.
Hello, crime spies. Isn't everything high in mercury? I don't know.
Crime Spies. I've seen the name before, but I haven't. She hasn't been in my chats. I don't think.
Uh, what you call it? Sal introduced me to her,
Oh, okay.
or Sal recommended me to her, and then I've been listening to her, and then she told me about Kick, but not. Look, I have to figure out. I have to go look at my message because one is a place where weirdos hang out, and one is a streaming service, and I'm going to mix up the two.
I'm just gonna stick him with my Discord. But she has a channel too. Cool. I will subscribe. Sal, I read that as Sal is the fluffer, but then I reread it. Just my mind went there when you think of Sal. That's all.
It's a Freudian slip.
All right, Mr. Wahid, you can continue.
we're going to come back to that question in just a second. Let me talk to you about the
True.
pediatric records, which you've reviewed.
Yeah, apparently we'll be watching Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey at some point.
Yes, Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern.
Sunday,
with the fact
Sunday,
that he was,
Sunday.
You've reviewed
Yep.
all these
In
documents. so you know
Discord, so guys,
that
check it out.
He was
Become a
essentially at
member.
7 months old, dropped off at an orphanage in Vietnam.
Overruled, you can answer if you know.
That's what the records show. Yes.
And you were talking about, this is in the context of you were talking about how early childhood issues might relate to later development, correct? You were talking about that a couple of times with the state.
Yeah. Particularly reactive attachment disorder. Yes.
Sure. So we're talking about early childhood. He gets dropped off at 7 months old. We don't know from records, because he was just dropped off at the orphanage, what the prenatal care was, correct? We don't know that.
No, we don't have those records.
We don't know what type of delivery of that baby happened, correct?
I mean, is the
Correct.
state challenging the fact that
And
this
we don't
child
really
had
have a medical history for that
issues?
first 7 months.
Well, so the state's basic idea is that the child's behavioral issues are not on trial. The parents, locking him up is on trial. So whatever the child did whatever the child did to necessitate that, which is directly countered by the child saying in his own testimony, let me look at my 900 notes. Oh, okay. They quote, well, paraphrasing, they did it in reaction to my behavior or something to that effect. So basically, they did it because of my behavior. So, and he doesn't blame them. He doesn't think they should be punished. Again, listen to his testimony yourself.
Well, this is the
It's-
thing. So he ran away and like went to a neighbor or something, right?
I
And then
believe
that's when the
so.
state got involved. See, people, when you get the state involved, it is out of the victim's hands, the witness's hands, everybody's hands. The state is going to do state things. That's why I say don't talk to anyone about anything ever.
I should have gone with the one with just
Cool.
a
Thank you,
slightly
Crime
better
Stories.
remote.
That's right.
Okay. Then the child's at the orphanage until about 17 months old, correct?
Yes,
And then
Okay.
he is adopted
correct.
by the Farriers,
17 months. Okay.
correct?
I thought it was
Yes.
14.
Okay, so he had 10 months in a Vietnamese
So
orphanage.
there's been a lot of
He's so
conversation
young,
about
though.
his snacks and eating
He
and that
doesn't
sort of thing.
remember.
Isn't it?
Well, he doesn't
at the-
remember, but you've got to think if he's one of several, let's say dozen babies, he's not getting that care that a newborn would get as an only baby. He's probably getting a bottle when he cries at a set schedule. He's probably laying in his bassinet. He's not getting that sort of attachment that we get there. Baker was talking about the Romanian children that were raised in orphanages, and they had lifelong problems with
Yeah, it's a
Attachment.
detachment association. When children are young, we do this a lot in family law. So when we have a couple that splits up and the child is young, we want to make sure that the child has as much contact with both parents as much as possible. So we might even do like a day on, day off, day on, day off, day on, day off. And why it's a
Yeah.
giant headache, it's so that the child doesn't lose those attachment issues, especially when they're young. So while they might not remember it, they can develop attachment issues. You're right.
Yeah, and I think what you're looking at here is also, oh, I'm going to write that down.
When was that case? Because she's lived here since the '80s, so she's a little out of touch with some local stories. But send me a DM, Matt.
Same. I'd have to have my, David on the shoulder, like, shut the hell up before someone gets
Yes.
there.
The 2021 medical records, which was literally the most recent prior to the running away that happened here in Florida, he had a 19.7 BMI, which was considered normal. That's normal, correct?
Oh,
It's, yes, his
Mm.
weight was
Okay, well, still
low,
send me a DM,
normal, I
man.
would say, but in the normal range.
His general appearance presented as well developed, correct?
Yes,
It was noted that he was well nourished and had no acute distress, correct?
and you're reading from the pediatric records?
Yes.
That sounds accurate.
And I'm picking a particular date of 2021 because I know it changes. I'm not going through all the records, but that was the most recent one, right?
Yes,
Then there was a whole conversation that you had about sugary snacks. You remember that?
why
I
is
don't know
your
if we had a whole
dog?
conversation about sugary snacks, no.
It's
Well, you
awesome.
definitely
They're
talked
never
about
in their bed.
snacks with the state, correct?
Yes,
And amongst
Because
them
my
were,
dog is weird.
was that
He was supposed to be a Pomsky. He's
allegedly being
obviously a
deprived
Muskie.
of snacks.
He's a
correct?
weirdo. He's fighting something in his sleep.
what was the first
I
I
part
don't
would
of
know.
say
your
he's dreaming.
Among the topics you discussed was allegedly being deprived of
Yes,
snacks.
this
correct?
is the
More so
defense
meals, I
attorney.
believe we talked about, that sometimes meals would be held if they thought he was angry, or if they felt he was misbehaving in some other way, they might withhold a meal.
Okay, so we'll get to meals.
Okay.
You also mentioned snacks. So I just wanna
Nothing
go in
wrong
order.
with that, right?
Let me ask you, you reviewed the family counseling records, right? And that goes back, that's
I mean, honestly, I swear to goodness, the feral child, the youngest, refuses to eat if I don't make chicken nuggets or ramen noodles for every meal.
Like, all right, you're hungry. I don't know what to tell you. I had a child abuse case many years ago. Actually, made the press. I represented stepmom who spanked the child and all this stuff. But one of the underlying issues was the child refused to eat, and so stepmom was like, well, "Then you don't eat." I don't know what to tell you. This is what I made for the family. But yeah, no, it's not child abuse.
I mean, he gets a peanut butter sandwich if he doesn't want to eat what I've made, but that's the only concession.
Mhm.
We just well, he lacks the delta brainwave. He might be his own grandfather. We don't know what happened in Roswell.
that starts essentially September 23rd of 2015 and is brought by his parents. And the chief complaint is he gets triggered and angry, that he has a low frustration tolerance.
Sustained.
This makes the child sound like a problem.
Isn't
I
it true
object.
that there were a number of complaints that the parents came to the family counseling services folks with, which included what you were talking about with the RID, which was the hoarding of food, taking food from other kids, that sort of stuff?
Ms. Martin, the counselor, said I believe she was considering RAD
Right.
as a diagnosis.
Yeah. So this is now 20.
Kathleen Martin was the counselor.
Correct. I don't want to talk over you. So just when you're done, I'll then go. And in that first visit, though, one of the issues that was, or facts that was given to Ms. Martin was this taking food from kids, hoarding food, that issue.
I believe that's in the records. I don't remember the exact timing.
I'm happy to refresh your memory. It's right in front of me.
Okay.
You can
Thanks.
approach Mr. Wade.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Steamed cabbage over hamburger?
Wait, what are we doing?
Crime Spy says my mom used to make steamed cabbage over hamburger. Now I love steamed cabbage, but not as a kid.
I'm still 12 years old. That sounds horrible. And that smells horrible.
My
Look,
wife
my
makes
husband,
it, but her mom makes the best cabbage.
And one of the
I
complaints as
absolutely
well,
love
I feel like I need to give you a copy of this because I'm going to do a lot of walking now. One of the complaints as well initially was that would actively defy or refuse to comply with requests from authority figures. Parents and siblings are stressed by the yelling and temper tantrums, right?
Yes.
So as a result of a series of meetings with Ms. Martin, one of the diagnoses that she had made was a thing called oppositional defiant disorder.
You can approach.
Well, while they're doing that, instead of typing up my answer, I'll just talk. Atheist, a child, every time they go to bed at night in their own room with the door closed, they are placed in solitary confinement. That's what this was. There was allegations that they left home for extended periods of time while he was locked in that room. Is that my understanding?
that's been alleged, but I don't know if the videos
when
I've seen.
No, I was just wondering what the child testified to. Because from what I understand, when the child testified, he said, yeah, it wasn't always locked, right?
He did say that it wasn't always locked, but I don't know if they quantified the longest time that he was in there. And I don't know what the video footage states.
Didn't know that F the government. It's a diagnosis. I may have been diagnosed with that, Nicholas.
All right, the objection is sustained. Mr. Waheed, you may continue. We've been going about an hour. Is this a good time to take a break, or you want to go for a little bit longer and tell me what a good stopping off point is?
I can just go for a little longer.
All right, so you tell me when you're at a good break point.
Based on your review of the records, are you aware that that was also diagnosed at some point with oppositional defiant disorder?
Yes,
And what is that?
it's sort of describes what it is by the title, but it's children who are beyond normal in the sense of defying rules, being oppositional, stubborn, saying things that irritate other people.
And based on what was in the record up until late 2015, would you have agreed with that diagnosis?
I really want to know more as to what was going on in his life at that time. And I just don't have the detail to really feel confident on that one way or the other.
Sure. However, would it be enough for you, based on what's in the record, to at least say that that would have been an appropriate differential diagnosis at the time?
Well, there's a lot of reasons kids.
Okay,
kids
so
can
Dave,
be
I have a
defiant.
question. Why did these experts not talk to the victim themselves? If I guess I thought the experts were going to interview the victim.
Well, sometimes they do. Sometimes they are forming expert opinions based off of other evidence that they have, right? So an expert doesn't have to have primary source information. An expert can take hearsay information, medical reports and things like that, and form an opinion on it. You know, say for example, the child was dead. Well, then obviously the expert can't talk to the child, but the expert can look at other information, medical reports, other things in order to form their expert opinion. So it's not necessary that they talk to the victim, although you would expect it in this case.
Okay.
anyways.
Well, I guess that's what I was hoping that they would have both spoken to the victim to get his kind of, I guess,
You would think
Get
so,
a
or at least he would be watching the testimony of the child, right? For sure.
well,
But, you
yeah,
know,
just
If you have an expert that's formed their opinion based off of everything else, and you like that opinion, why would you sully this great opinion that you want to use by having them meet with the child or do other things? You know, that's a
Well,
trial
but-
strategy sort of thing.
I do understand that, but he's diagnosed this child with PTSD, but he's never actually talked to the child.
Right. Well, it doesn't disqualify them from offering expert opinion. It just
Okay.
really limits them, in my mind,
All right.
for their
Well, I just
qualifications. And the defense should, should be going after this. Like, you never met with the child, you never talked with the child, right? That could be a problem for the state.
I will say the bulldog lawyer in this particular duo seems to be the female for the defense.
And screaming and going after snacks and sneaking them, that sort of thing, and stealing food from other children at school. So I really want to know more.
So that information, though, based on the record, was passed
But he
on,
didn't talk to the
right?
child. He wants to know more, but
That
he didn't talk to the
diagnosis was
child.
given to the parents, correct?
I don't know. I assume.
Well, you have it in the records, correct, that you reviewed?
Sustained. If you know, you can answer, sir.
I don't know what Ms. Martin said to the parents about the diagnosis.
Would a document from her report help refresh your recollection?
Well, you asked me if they passed it on to the parents. So
Yes.
if that would help me, yes.
Sustained.
I haven't seen the female defense attorney. She has resting bee face and a fake smile. They're scary. I know some attorneys like that, and they're really freaking
Based on
effective.
your review of the records,
Oh yeah, she is
was there
a
any
a
advice
bulldog.
given as to how
In the
to
best sense of the term.
handle
I mean,
that diagnosis.
if you
Sustained.
need a
Let me-
defense
Let me
attorney,
have your
you
approach
want
on that,
her
Mr.
to be.
White.
So the one good thing about being an attorney is when you're involved with these cases, you can argue all you want. You usually don't get emotionally wrapped up in them because, you know, you're able to rise above it, and we lack heart and emotion and all that good stuff anyways. So it's great. But every once in a while, and there's a case in particular, I got so personally hated the opposing counsel. She was kind of that woman, right? Resting bee face. Her smiles were fake. She was a pain in the ass to deal with. And I like every time I just want to into her face. And so I was like, I can't represent you. I have to withdraw because I'm getting too angry at opposing counsel that I had to withdraw. I just didn't feel like I could effectively represent the client. Not because she was like really good and I didn't know what I was doing or I was struggling, or it was just every time I just wanted to smash her smug face, and I just couldn't do it. I see her now. That's her right there with the glasses, right?
Objection sustained. You may continue.
That's
Mr.
the
White.
state's attorney, actually.
Oh, that's the state's attorney. What's the defense? The female defense attorney.
If
wants to
hypothetically
see
Uh,
child's
she's
diagnosed with ODD, what would you recommend to parents as treatment? A hypothetical.
Sustained. Even a hypothetical still has to be relevant. So unless you want to argue the relevancy, sidebar, you can move on.
I would like to do that.
All right, so let's approach again.
all right. We're going to 1.25 since we're just on sidebars.
Oh yeah, well I
Uh,
would
no.
just you could I would just hit the L button and skip right past the sidebars.
Well, the problem is that crime or law and crime has now when they put the footage up, if you're behind like I am, they've taken out the brakes.
But you can still hit L and it'll jump forward like 30 seconds.
Oh,
If you're on the
Oh.
YouTube screen, like you are now because you got that up. If you hit
Ah.
L, it should just jump forward like 30 seconds. That's what I
Do you need
do.
the question restated for you, sir?
There you go.
ah,
I'll-
Go ahead and
you're a
restate it.
And the
genius.
arrow button will jump
what
forward
would
like
be-
10
what would be
seconds.
the treatment you would recommend for
Your
ODD?
arrow
Ooh.
buttons.
Opposition.
Or back if you want.
In
Same way.
general,
So
um,
Jay
Tony,
will
as
jump
you
you
came
back
about
30 seconds.
The ODD symptoms and where they're happening.
Thank
and
you for
what's
that.
happening, and is it happening everywhere? Is it happening just at home? And then how long has it been occurring? And then once you kind of get a real understanding of it, then it might be approached with individual therapy, or just be meeting with a child, or you might be doing
The evolution of fry
parent
sleeping
training and
positions.
working with the parents, and or you might also do family sessions.
It's
where you meet with the
Jonestown
child
the
and
morning
and the
after.
parents to work on the oppositional defiant behavior.
You should just have a
And
live
sometimes
cam
it's
constantly
real-
going
real,
on Fry, even when you're not covering
I guess,
trials. Just always going.
Really problematic, and you're not getting anywhere with those
The
treatments. You
the
could
hard
consider
thing is he
medications.
moves out of frame so much. I have to
A
move the
medication
camera
like,
around.
Is it
I need to
Clonidine?
when I get
Clonidine?
an
Clonidine?
office, I just need to
Say,
mount it on the
Clonidine,
ceiling.
Clonidine.
Possibly, yes, you could try that.
Okay.
Yes,
And is your understanding that that was ever tried on,
that was tried for, I believe, ADHD.
but it was tried on him?
Yes. And sometimes children who are depressed will show ODD type symptoms, so you might end up treating them for depression and using an antidepressant.
And would limit setting be one of the things that you would recommend when treating a child with ODD, that parents have limit setting where they put limits on the child?
Yes, that may well be part of it. Yes.
And I'm not sure if you said it, but also would therapy sessions be a part of that?
In
I
general,
just
yes.
sent you a link in private chat.
Would
Oh, thank you.
You get one of
steps
you get
to
one of these.
reduce sugar or other types of caffeinated things that would make one more hyper?
That's very rarely going to explain ODD. I mean, could that be a small part of it? Maybe, but that isn't going to be the source of a child coming in with ODD.
I'm gonna have a hard time
symptoms.
telling Mr. Mo that I need a new camera as well as
You
the,
said,
the
a
camera I
moment
just
ago
bought
that
at the
some
last
point,
Prime
that Dr.
Day.
Martin, in the review of the records,
I know, but it
also
automatically
came
will
to,
follow the dog around.
Oh,
a conclusion later on in her work
True.
that there's a
You don't
possibility.
have to
All right,
do
I
anything.
need
It just it'll always
reactive
follow it.
attachment disorder.
I need to start crowdfunding for
It was mentioned, but
a solitary
read
fry
through the records. They're a
hollow
little bit
fry
vague,
camera.
but yet she
What's
had
your
a
Cash
couple of
App? Throw it out
hour-long
there.
sessions with Malone, and she
Oh,
described him
that's
as
right. If
compliant,
anyone feels like
cooperative,
it, if one of the
normal speech,
moderators will put up my Cash App, we
insightful,
will get a
judgment intact,
hollow
adequate
fry
impulse control,
camera.
good memory.
Are you reading from a particular document?
That's from her notes from November 4th of 2015.
I think he's part
So
Sharpay
what
because
the-
his foldy.
He didn't come
His
across
skin's
at
all
all as having
foldy.
ODD, and she had two, I believe, 60-minute individual sessions with him. He came across as very sort of, really in a lot of ways unremarkable as far as having mental illness symptoms of an ODD nature.
But in that same November 4th, 2015, isn't it correct that she also pointed out he was eating too many sugars and sweets and that the parents had to, and that this was leading to emotionally liable behavior, and that the parents, including screaming, tantrums.
Eris is
and that the
supposed to be
parents
one,
eventually-
and let me make Sal one
she
while I'm
opines
here.
that they need to
I was pulling up a
monitor
bunch of
his
things
diet,
for something
correct?
else too
I'm
because I'm a
summarizing without reading the document.
That
giant
sounds
genius.
correct, yes.
big galaxy brain.
But again, eating some sugary sweets isn't going to explain that diagnosis.
We can take a break at this time, Judge.
Okay, all right, we're going to take a 10-minute break. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Mark, could I escort them back?
Oh,
He opines that they need to
See, you can just,
monitor his diet, correct? I'm summarizing without reading the document.
That
Thank you,
sounds-
guys.
we need to give
I
them all
told the junior.
$150 so she
But
can
again,
get a
eating some
tracking.
sugary sweets
an
isn't gonna
auto-tracking
explain
webcam
that
for Fry.
diagnosis.
We can take a break at this time, Judge.
Okay, all right, we're going to take a 10-minute break. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Mark, could I escort them back? Actually, we'll take a 15-minute break. It's 2:45 and we'll be in recess until 3. All right, everyone may be seated. All
I don't know what your
right, court will be in
what your
recess until 3
Cash
o'clock.
App is.
well, I'm putting Sal
Everyone may
on.
be seated. All right, Wahid, you
Does
ready
he
to
have your
continue with
Cash
the
App?
calls?
I am.
All right, Mark, you may bring the
I
jurors
thought
in.
Eris did, but Gigi is still not feeling good, but she does appreciate everyone's.
Ooh, what is that? Is that the
I
court?
think that Sal, you are now a moderator.
Ooh, Salvador. He's not modded in my channel yet. He's got to earn that.
Mr. Wahid, do you have an idea of how much longer you're going to be?
And let me look. I don't even remember my Cash App. Isn't that sad?
The only
I should
reason
remember.
Salvador, I'll say this on your channel, not mine. The only reason
Alright.
he's not moderated on my channel is because every time he's on my channel, I'm streaming and I'm not usually looking over at the chat to mod him.
All right, everyone may be seated. Mr. Wahid, you may continue with your cross-examination.
Thank you, Judge. Dr.
Well, you know.
We're going through some of the items that you reviewed that would form your opinion. So,
Is Baker still going?
Brennan was also diagnosed at some
Oh,
point in
I'm
the
not
records
quite
with
sure.
Yeah,
ADHD.
he is.
Can you tell us
I
what
don't know
that
what he's
is?
talking about.
Oh, Ghostery,
Attention
thank you.
deficit hyperactivity disorder affects about 5% of kids, and they have trouble paying
There's most
attention,
Cash App.
concentrating, completing tasks, sitting still. That's also called hyperactivity, where they have trouble.
And that was, he was about 10 years old back then.
Oh, I
Yes.
gotta go meet somebody
In that-
for my
in that neighborhood.
food.
And so what,
Okay, well, thank you.
well, first,
Oh, I'm not
based on
going yet.
your
I'm
review of the
just-
records,
Oh,
would you
look,
concur with that
Fry
opinion?
has been a weird sleeper. I will pick him up
What
and
I-
put him in his bed, and
What
he will
doesn't
go
seem
right back
support
to
it is the
melting out of
teacher
it.
Complaints that occasionally occur aren't about he's not paying attention or he's getting bad grades because he can't concentrate or finish his work. So the teacher reports don't really support ADHD very well. And then when I see him, for instance, on his lengthy CPT interview, he doesn't show any hyperactivity at all, and he's concentrating and he pays attention to everything that's said to him and responds appropriately. So, and then also the video in his box, he doesn't seem hyperactive in there most of the time. So I really felt like that may not be at all a accurate diagnosis.
Well, so this was when he was about 10. You didn't have the CPT interview when he was 10. You didn't have videos when he was 10. So based on the review of
The
records up until
gauntlet
he was
has
10,
been challenge
with
accepted.
the chief complaints about essentially what we just talked about before the break, which is, the acting out, temper tantrums, the focus issues that are in the report that we just went through before the break, through all of those things. So just knowing what someone would know in the record up until the point where he's about 10, based on that, would you
Sal
concur?
took Maz
If
wrench
you were to
away.
go back in your DeLorean to that time and you were making the diagnosis, would you agree that that could have been a
Party
valid
foul.
diagnosis when he's about 10?
It could have
Salbert,
been, but
explain
when you look
thyself.
at these notes, for instance, when he's 8, he's described as getting along with children and he responds to discipline. Other notes around that time describe normal mental status examination, normal behavior going back in the pediatric notes. So that doesn't really fit with ADHD.
What would you what would you
Like Salvador's not even in my
opine
chat
is
from
is
yesterday.
a treatment for ADHD?
If the child has ADHD, if it's on the milder side, you can try behavioral interventions and modifying the environment and having them move their desk up to the front of the room so they're less distracted by the kids around them. And then when you get to moderate or severe cases, you generally have to go to medication.
Medication like clonidine.
That's a second level medication. There's sort of the first tier medications are still the stimulant medications like Ritalin.
Okay. What's Tenex? Tenex.
That's a medicine like guanfacine. I'm sorry, like clonidine. It's called guanfacine. It's a similar blood pressure medicine actually, but it was found to work for ADHD as well.
All right.
To be helpful for it.
And based on your review of the records, you're familiar that was prescribed these medications.
Yes.
And is it,
I could see that.
do you know that, so Dr. Tom Rickenbacher found that he had ADHD and also the reactive attachment disorder, correct? At the same time.
I have to refresh my memory. I think he was considering reactive attachment disorder also. I thought the wording was that there's RAD issues, but maybe he made the diagnosis.
I can refresh your recollection if you want.
Okay.
Madam
You
President.
can
Thank
approach.
you.
I thought you were a mod.
Yeah, just let's have the protocol that you show it to counsel first before you approach the witness.
Show it first. to her.
Yeah. So
If you're not a mod, Jamie, I'll mod you after this stream. We'll get done with this trial in February, I swear. True. Jamie, there is a protocol apparently to getting a wrench for David's.
I'm trying to find Salvador in any of my chats so that I can mod him. And I'm not seeing it. He's not in my chats.
does that help refresh your recollection?
It does. Yes.
So it's fair
Got to
to
go
say
in
that
like the long way to mod
back in
him.
2019,
She's making
was
a pain
diagnosed
in the
with-
ass.
reactive attachment disorder and ADHD.
Yes. I don't believe Dr. Rickenbacher had the entire story at that time. I don't see any mention of that's 2019 around the time that would have been starting to be isolated and put in the box, to my understanding.
So
So
you
if he didn't know that, that could be the reason why he's roaming around at night inside the cell and that he's having behavior problems at school.
So you didn't agree with the ODD, oppositional defiance disorder diagnosis. You don't agree with the ADHD diagnosis here. What about the RAD diagnosis?
And again, I'm questioning those diagnoses because I think there's conflicting information and the people who were assessing him at the time, I don't believe had the full picture.
All right. Now it's fair to say though, they were closer to the opportunity to assess than you are sitting here, correct?
As far as being in the room with him, yes, but they didn't have the benefit of many, many years of observations and records on him. They would not have been provided that or had the time to review all that anyway.
So is that your opinion because you believe that, I just want to be right about this. I think what you just said is that because they don't know that this is generally what you said. They don't know that he, and I assume, was in the box, the room at the time. And that's an added fact that makes a difference for you, correct?
It does, yes. Again, because maltreatment can look like ADHD. And all these diagnoses say you have to exclude any other potential cause for this before you make, say, a diagnosis of ODD or ADHD.
But earlier when we were talking about Kathleen Martin and her family counseling associate records, those were in 2015. There's no allegation anywhere in the record that was in that room in the garage in 2015, correct?
Correct.
But he's still acting out and doing all these things and, being disruptive and throwing tantrums and uncontrollable, correct?
It's not like he's always like that. I mean, I didn't see any really big school problems at that time.
So when you
And
say
that's the history that is coming out from I believe a parent. And then when she's in the room with him, he comes across as a pretty normal kid.
When who's in the
Wait,
room?
what are
with
we
who?
celebrating about?
Ms. Martin is in the room with him for those.
I think the Diamondbacks got into something with the sports balls.
Oh, sports balls. Okay. All right. I'll be right back. I'm going to run downstairs and grab my food.
Sounds good.
2 2-hour sessions. And the pediatric records around that time aren't real documentary of extreme behavior problems either.
Yet but after she's in the room with him for those sessions, she still opines he has oppositional defiance disorder, though, correct? And he's still not, in a room in the garage at this point.
I believe that's correct, yes.
Okay. But you still don't think you think you're in a better position to now decide he did not have ODD back in 2015. Is that it?
What I tried to explain was I would want more information so that I could feel comfortable ruling in or ruling out that diagnosis. And I just don't know. I really just don't know. I don't have enough information.
So it's fair to say also you don't have enough information to say that Kathleen Martin's diagnosis is incorrect back in 2015.
Or
Right.
correct. That's right. Either way.
Would that also apply to the psychiatrist, Dr. Tom Rickenbacher's opinions? You don't have enough information to decide whether it is or isn't accurate? Is that your opinion?
It is, yes.
Let's talk about, so as part of the basis of your opinion, you reviewed medical records, but you also reviewed school records, correct?
Yes.
And those were school records from two different schools, correct?
Yes.
Independence Middle School and Basis Academy, correct?
Yes.
Which stream, Ghosterly?
I believe Independence Middle School is earlier in time. Let me say that again. I believe Basis Academy is earlier in time.
Right.
All right. And so you reviewed those log entries, right? And
I have, yes.
so it's fair to say that there's a series of incidences where something does something at school. The school basically reaches out to the parents, tells them what he did wrong, and then the parents respond, often the exact same day by email. I haven't.
Let him finish his question, Ms. Copeland, then you can make your objection. But you are, let me have you approach.
Wow. That's just like, that got really loud. I'm going to take this opportunity to jump off real quick because I do
Okay.
have work to do. And I thought I was going to be able to like stream
Not
and
work.
work. Yeah, no, I can't. I have a stack of files that I need to get through. But awesome. Thanks for having me on. And
You're welcome.
you guys enjoy this shenanigans that is this trial. I'll be watching probably in the background because this is an interesting case.
Sounds
And then-
good.
May or may not be trolling in a couple other different streams. But
Well, that's understandable. I mean, how else Fry, what in the hell I don't even, David, what is,
you need
I
that
didn't get
camera. It would just
I
follow
didn't
him
get
around.
my dog is broken. What is this?
Can
He
you put
just
him up full
is-
screen? Is he
he's
lying like
continu-
half on his back, half twisted?
Let
That's
me
how
see
he
if I can
sleeps.
get, how do I get full screen for him?
All right, objection sustained. All right, you
There
can
you go.
rephrase and move on, Mr. Wahid.
So
He is
before we
just
start getting
bound-
into this, one of the
He's
things
bound and
that you
determined to
opined
show
earlier
everyone his
was
bits
that
on the
He
internet.
looks comfortable.
that the
Yeah, he just likes to hang out with his wang
that Tim
out. It
Ferrier,
just-
his conduct was malicious.
I mean,
Remember
we
that?
all do.
I do, yes.
I mean, he's just like, I can do it and no one can get mad at me on the internet. You're just jealous, everyone.
I am
So
very much.
my understanding is malicious
Yes, fry
means
camera find.
wrongful,
Get it out
intentional,
there.
without legal justification.
All right, we'll see you all.
something where that a reasonable
Fry,
parent
I
would not have
cannot with
engaged in
you.
that conduct towards a child for any valid reason, and that the primary purpose of the act was to cause the victim unjustifiable pain and injury. Is that what you meant by malicious?
Oh, crud. What did I do? I don't even know.
Overruled. You can answer, sir, if that's what you meant.
That, I wouldn't have probably given that definition verbatim, but that seems to describe it. Yes.
Okay.
Mean, cruel, not called for, inappropriate, potentially harmful, or even life-threatening.
And malicious is it let me ask you a question. What is the DSM-5?
The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, and it's the 5th edition. It's been around since, I believe, 1952. It's produced by the American Psychiatric Association, and it attempts to list every mental disorder that can affect human beings. And it's got hundreds of diagnoses in it, and it has descriptions and the criteria you would need to meet each of those diagnoses.
And is malicious a diagnosis in the DSM-5?
No,
No. Okay. So malicious is not a psychiatric diagnosis by you, correct?
correct.
Okay. It's really a lay opinion, correct? Because it's not a psychiatric opinion, which is what you're an expert at, correct?
It's a reflection on personality traits.
But since it's not in the DSM-5, it's fair to say it is not a psychiatric diagnosis, and that is your area of expertise, right?
Well, human behavior would be my area of expertise as well, and personality.
So I don't think you answered my question. So the question is that malicious, not being in the DSM-5, and therefore not being a psychiatric diagnosis,
I'll
to
try that. I was
opine that someone's malicious
looking
would
at
not
one
be a
of those
psychiatric opinion, correct?
beds that
It would not require your
it's like
specialty,
the metal
correct?
frame and then the little piece of
That's
fabric
correct.
stretched
Okay.
over.
So that
'cause maybe
opinion is
he's
you as a
being too
layperson.
hot.
That's your opinion, just as like it would be mine or anyone in the audience.
No, I'm making a clinical assessment of a parent's behavior towards their child. It's a clinical observation based on video evidence, based on other evidence, and based on working with abused children my entire career, as well as abusive parents. And malicious may be an adjective in the DSM. I don't know. We'd have to look in the index.
I
It
looked
may
at that.
be related to certain disorders.
I looked at it. I couldn't find it, but if you find it, please let me know. So
Sustained. Jury's instructed to disregard counsel's comments about his efforts at finding it in the DSM manual.
let's go back to now the school records. So your opinion was that the parents' conduct was malicious, that there was, in other words, they, and I'm going to have to use some lay terms here, they didn't care at all about this kid, correct? That's what you're saying?
I never said that.
So I need a better understanding of where do you get malicious from?
To my understanding, it's a synonym for cruel or mean.
Okay. So you think they're cruel or mean?
Their behaviors, yes.
Okay. Towards,
Yes.
okay. So there's examples at basics where Ronan gets in trouble and school reaches out to the parents and the parents respond essentially saying they will now take care of that with some form of either talking to or some other form of punishment, correct?
I
Yeah,
hope
this
talking to him wouldn't be a form of punishment.
Well, some form of
That's
punishment.
right. That
or
they're going to
talking.
respond. Yes.
Okay, just so my record's clear on that. I'm not trying to say that they are the same. It's a or. So in other words, I'll say it again, so we're clear for the record, is that school would reach out to the parents and say, did this in school. And here's the harm it created. And then very, very soon thereafter, usually within the same day, the parents would respond, apologizing to the school and saying that they will, in some cases, they said they'll speak to and they'll have a conversation with him, correct?
I believe so.
And in some cases, they said they will take corrective action with him, correct?
Something like that. Yes.
Okay. In your opinion, you've done a lot of work with in the area of juvenile crime, in the area of juveniles. Would that be considered an appropriate parenting technique? Their response.
It's not really a parenting technique. They're responding and letting the school know we hear what you said and we're going to deal with it. It really doesn't reflect on the quality or acceptability or appropriateness of the parenting technique. I mean, nowhere did they respond and say, okay, we're going to build a cell and isolate him for 2.5 or 3 years.
And in your review of the records, some of those instances that happened at Basics actually hurt other children, correct?
That's not entirely accurate. I don't know of any child that was significantly hurt. There was,
I didn't use the word significantly. I just said hurt other children.
well, you have to look at each one in context, and there's several of them over the course of, let's see, over the course of 4.5 or so years of school records. There was several instances of conflict that got physical, and I think one of the first ones was a boy kicked in the leg at recess, and then he hit him once back. So it wasn't even who apparently did the hit first. He got hit, and he was responding defensively.
Sure, mutual combat. Both children got punished, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. There's also a situation though where he took his finger and thumb and pushed it up against a boy's neck, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that would be hurting another child, no?
That boy was, according to the teacher, was not being nice either. So
Is that a reason to do that, doctor? Is that a reason to?
Let him finish his answer, counsel, before you cut him off. Finish your answer, sir.
Yeah, it's not, I don't see him as acting in a vacuum. He just goes up and pushes his thumb into some boy's throat. There was an interaction with them. He took a pocket full of Legos to school, and I believe it was the boy snitched on him and said, hey, he's got Legos. And so the teacher took his Legos away and was upset.
So snitches get stitches. Is that what we're going with here? I'm just asking for a friend. I didn't know if it was in Psychology Today.
And then they got into this issue. But the other thing that makes me think of is he recreating the trauma, what he's been through, where he's been grabbed by the neck and pinned up against the wall and choked? Is he reenacting the trauma he's been through?
You also said just now that not acting in a vacuum. It's fair to say that the parents are also not acting here in a vacuum, that they're reacting to.
Overruled. You can answer it if you know.
Help me. What do you mean reacting to?
Is acting out and seems to be uncontrollable. And they are trying to do what parents are supposed to do, control their child.
We're getting into which comes first, the chicken or the egg. Did their escalating of abuse of him cause his behavior to get worse and worse, and it just became a vicious cycle? And the worse he was mistreated, the worse he behaved. I mean, that's kind of what it looks like to me, because we don't have a whole lot of behavior problems going on before he was, say, 8, and then it seemed to start around that time.
Well,
And they had him
where
up
are
until
you
that
getting
point for 6 from the pediatric records, really, are the main things. And they never took him to any sort of counseling. There's no school records with complaints on his behavior before age 8.
So it's fair to say that we are
No problem, Eris.
how do I word this?
I appreciate what
That
you
comes
guys
out of our-
can do
You can.
when you can do it. You guys are helping me out greatly with your tech skills, so I am fine with whatever you guys can do when you can do it. You are helping me out greatly as mods, so what you can do is awesome. And I'm going to have to talk to YouTube about why no one is getting my notifications.
Okay, the objection is sustained.
Just because you don't have records before the age of 8, that's why you're saying that, correct?
That and the pediatric records don't suggest any problems with his behavior. They refer to normal mood, normal development, reaching his milestones on time.
But you weren't provided any of the school records or any other records before that age, correct?
Correct.
So,
From school.
sure.
Any other records from school.
Or any other
Oh,
therapy or
okay.
other mental health records.
Well,
or anything
David
like
said
that.
he didn't get any notifications, so
Well, I
that's
have-
good. I'm glad people
I have a
are.
mental status exam in essence from when he was 17 months old, when Dr. I think it's Halavy assessed him, I think in Vietnam. And he was described as smiling, laughing, walking, running, and climbing, and his fine motor skills were good. So he was actually not showing the full effects of being just sort of this non-reactive, non-responding sort of infant that's been completely neglected.
So you have no, other than that, you have no other mental health or therapy or school records before the age of 8.
No,
And that is why you're saying that there weren't any. That's your basis to say why there weren't any incidents before the age of 8.
I didn't see any.
Because you don't have those records, right?
Sustained.
Because there are.
Unanswered. Sustained. Move on.
So when he goes to Independence, we see a similar pattern, correct? Where
Ms. Coakley, let him finish his question. Restate your question, Mr. White, so I can capture it.
sure, we see a similar pattern that we saw at Basics, where there's an incident that happens within school. School reaches out to the parent, and the parent says that they will they'll talk to him, they'll do something about it, right?
Yes.
And there's a point in time where that's like almost every month, right? In 2019.
Approach.
Hi, Stephanie Bland. And no worries, we are running behind as well. So we are on day 3. I hope to get done with day 4 tomorrow. And then this weekend, do kind of a speed run. I'm going to be working a schedule with Sal because I do want to do at least Maya's testimony, excuse me, this weekend.
The
But
objection
with
is
friend.
sustained. Counsel, rephrase, please.
But definitely want to get this trial done. I know we will probably get a verdict before we are actually done with this trial. Hey, Shizzy,
So- I'm going to talk through
if
the
you
year
wanna
of
come
2019. It's
on-
2 schools. So he was at Immaculate Heart, and then he is at
let me see if I can find you on Twitter.
for the first part of the
'Cause
year,
I'm
and then at Basis
about-
the next part of the year. So looking
Ter-
at 2019.
One second, I've got a call from someone and I have no idea who it is. Sure, this will be fun.
Just in February, March, April, just in those months, there seems to be an incident. There's at least 5 incidents, correct? A very short span of time.
In which month?
Late February of 2019 through early April of 2019.
I tried to list them out. I may have missed some, but I have 12 of them over a period of 4.5 years, 12 teacher or communications with the parents about the behaviors.
All right. So that's
And that's that's probably out of 800 school days. I've got roughly 12 complaints.
so the question though is, within a very short span of time, from February 28th to April 5th, there are 6 incidents where the school has to reach out to the parents in a manner we just talked about, where they are complaining about his acting out his behavior, injuring other children during recess, or taking electrical items, calculators, whatever from other kids. And the parents respond to each one of those within a day, saying that they will take some corrective action.
And what period are you saying that starts in? What month and year?
February
Of-
28th, 2019.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
So this February 28th, 2019. I have March 8th, 2019, March 16th, March 22, March 27th, April 5th, correct?
I don't have all those. I'm not sure if they're related or not. I have the the February 28th, 2019 one marked down where he got into an altercation with another boy and they were both throwing punches.
So the question I have, so first, I can't ask the question until I know, are you agreeing or disagreeing with the foundation of what I'm saying?
I didn't document all those. So if you want to show them to me, if there's 6 of them there or 5 of them, I don't have those documented, but if they're all about the same incident, that's why I would not have documented all 5 instances. If it's just more about the same incident.
The different incidences, each is a different incident. I understand your question. So I can show you. Hang on.
Do you need to approach?
I do, Judge. I just get organized first.
All right, you may approach. Ms. Coakley, we need to get a microphone in your hand when you make your objections. I got spanked from recording that they couldn't hear you, so I'm putting it on you now. Use the mic. I've yet to go to trial yet where I didn't get that call from recording, so.
Thank you.
And when you're walking away, if you're talking to Mr. Wahid, you need to have the mic. Mark, do we have a second handheld? Let's put that on the podium for Mr. Wahid. Just take it up to him if he's going to be talking.
For the record, just showing the witness for his, to help refresh his recollection.
Thank you.
Oh, missed one.
So when you're done looking at the documents that are being used to refresh your recollection, you'll put them down, turn them over, and then you'll be asked if that refreshes your recollection.
Okay, see if I can remember those.
I'll leave there for a minute. Sorry, Judge.
That's all right.
All right. So during the time period of, and I actually forgot a couple. I have it. There's a January and another February here. Can I think about it?
You can approach if you need to show it to him.
All right. So the question I was asking you earlier is, and I had said 5 or 6. I now count, and I've tried to help refresh recollection about 8 incidents from January 29th, 2019 through April 5th.
Hello. Well, that was interesting. So I'm guessing that wasn't the government because, let's see, Robert Daniel was telling me that my ID was being used. Of course, it sounded like a call center from, let's just say, a nation that just changed its name over in, well, let's just say India. And your name isn't Robert Daniel, but apparently my name has been used for packages from Mexico in a state case. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to need you to say stuff over a recorded line. I'm like, well, you can send all of that to non-spam number. He's like, "Do you know what identity theft is?" I'm like, "I'm gonna end this call now." He's like, "My name is Robert Daniel." I was like, "And mine is Cher."
April 5th of 2019, where the school reached out to the parents with incidents that had taken place with.
So the question is, has his recollection been refreshed? That's the first question we have to get to.
You didn't miss much. Apparently, I am part of quote unquote the new scam thing is that there people will call you and say that you have your identity is being used to traffic certain things of a bad thing. And yeah, he's like, "This is a recorded line. Do you want to state on this recorded line that you had nothing to do with this?" I was like, "No, I'd like you to send all documentation to my lawyer and legal representation." And he's like, "No, ma'am, stay on the line because I'm going to tell you what to do." I was like, "No, no, you can send all documentation to my legal representation."
To get to.
He's like, "That
before
is
we
not
talk
how
about what
this
his refreshed
works."
recollection
I'm
Not
like,
just
"Look,
giving
Robert
context.
Daniel."
Yeah, but my concern is in the method of questioning. It's putting, let's
Well, I
find
don't
out
know
if his
French.
recollection's been refreshed first.
Has your
And
recollection been
since he can't
refreshed?
see me throw
Yes,
up
thank you.
double
Okay.
deuces, it's
So there were
hanging up is so
incidences
satisfying.
on January
Let
29th
me
of 19,
on
February
Discord,
15th of
Shizzy, I'm
19,
going to send you a link if you'd
February
like to
28th of
join.
19, March 8th of 19, March 16th of
I've actually
19,
had them hang up on me because I just keep asking for a
March 22nd of
supervisor and they're like,
19,
"You're not nice."
March 27th
I'm
of
like,
19,
"You're a
April 5th
freaking
of 19.
telemarketer.
At
What
the
do you
school,
want
correct?
from me?"
Yes.
Okay. And at each time, in each of those incidents, it ranged from some injury to another
like,
student to some
I
property
thought we
damage
were
or theft.
we were understood to be
No.
mutual
One of them is
combatants.
he had, I believe, green sprinkles in his possession. Another one was he took some snacks from another student. Another one was he was found in possession of a Texas Instruments calculator. Another one was he did something to a computer regarding the coding or something. He was trying to get to a game on that computer. And then he had the one we talked about already. We had a fight with a boy on the playground. I mean, they threw some punches. And then let's see, another one was he kicked a ball at another student multiple times. And then, so
How was that
I didn't
not
see
what-
where anybody was injured or hurt. I mean, and many of these are regarding items he had in his possession or messing with the computer or having sprinkles.
sprinkles which he had stolen, right? Those were not his sprinkles, correct?
I'm not sure where he got the sprinkles.
I'm going by the documents you reviewed.
Hello.
Hello, gorgeous. I'm so honored I get to speak with Cher.
Swear to God, he was like, "Have you ever been to Mexico?" I was like, "I wish I had, but no." Also, no.
Oh. But I mean,
He's like-
you should have said I am totally up for adventure. I will tell you, seeing that you know my address, go ahead and send me that information, and I will.
I was like, "Can we at least start with honesty? Your name is not Robert Daniel. Let's be honest." We haven't started off this whole conversation with honesty.
Love them. I keep getting pictures like of these like somewhat hot Asian chicks, and they're all just like, "Hey, I
Ah.
haven't seen you in a while." I'm like, "Oh wow, I've never seen you before." So that makes two of us.
Well, I mean, at least your email isn't full of I don't know what kind of mail list I got on, but apparently whatever spam list I got on is deeply worried about my erectile dysfunction.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I need to get that one fixed, Mo.
I do. My both length and girth apparently and stamina.
Your length, girth, and stamina. How will you ever survive?
I know.
Just told them to hold, and it just.
Oh,
moves.
that's a good idea. I need to do that. I need to have the
And-
most I need to have red wine. I don't know why that song pisses me off so much, but it instantly angers me whenever it comes on the radio. I don't know why. It's a fairly good song, but it pisses me off.
Well, and if you can work on your voice a little bit where you almost get a little nasally, and then you can get
Ah,
that press 1 for your next option. And it'll
or
be like,
what is,
"Beep."
or whatever you say, ocho para español. Oh, good. I'm glad I'm not the only one. I have I, I know I need to see a therapist, not for like important stuff, but look, your therapistness. I don't understand why I have a deep and abiding hatred for red wine. The song.
It's- there's certain songs that just I just hate hearing them. I'm like, I just don't like this song at all. Uh, one of them
All
is
right.
is what's his name? I forget. But somebody said, "Oh, you sound like him whenever you sing." And I was like now I hate him even more. Well, yeah,
And when
'cause-
you're saying not injured, isn't there literally?
This
so
lawyer,
so I haven't been keeping up with this. Can you give me that 10,000-foot view of what
all
happened here?
right. So parents adopt first daughter from China, then adopt son from Vietnam. Uh, things seem to be going okay. Have 3 or 4 biological children. I think it's 3. Um, son starts acting out and they go to various different doctors, kind of get thrown around, get past, like the medications, like he has ADHD, he has attachment or reactive attachment disorder. He has an escalating pattern of behavior. Um, he's very intelligent, very manipulative. He goes into his sister's classroom, says he has permission from the teacher to be there to make an announcement, berates his sister publicly for some imagined slight. Goes into another classroom, claims that he is there with the school board to critique a teacher uh, for reasons. Asks if the Holocaust was real, among jailbreaking his school Chromebook to look up disturbing images, uh, rough houses with other children, a lot of little things that are escalating, takes a box cutter or tool into school, um, runs away. The parents are, according to the defense, at their wits' end, are afraid that he is going to run away at the middle of the night or do something bad to the other children. So they, in Arizona, have a 8 by 8 room built that has locks on the outside, a Ring camera inside it. Big design flaw. There is no restroom adjacent, so he does have to use a bucket in the middle of the night for relieving himself.
Yeah.
They moved to Florida. Instead of finding a house that fits them all, they decide to replicate the 8 by 8 box, again without a toilet. He again runs away. The state has decided to charge the parents with unlawful imprisonment, child abuse, and child neglect. The father was offered a plea deal that had basically 2 years in prison, 5 years probation. Uh, if he is charged guilty on all of the offenses as they are listed right now, he's looking at up to 40 years in prison. Going into this case, mainstream media has kind of billed it as the boy in the box. If you were to only watch the mainstream media coverage of this case, you would think he was locked in day and night, like never allowed to go out. He did go to school for the 80 gajillionth time. There were so many off ramps these parents could have taken. This was not the right choice.
Right.
Um, but it's also, when does the state get to step in and decide what parenting? Again, they build it as a box. Is it a room? Is it a box? Is it a cell? What level of parenting? Because a lot of the things that he did, I mean, he stole credit card numbers, he stole things, he committed fraud. I mean, had the parents let the state take care of it, he would have been in juvenile, which would have meant he would have been locked in a room.
So
So
how old was he whenever this was all found out?
I believe he was 14 or 15. Chat, can you help me out? Because I
Okay.
have my
No,
notes.
that's no, I was just curious and making sure he wasn't, this like 8 or 9 year old kid. I was like, that's pretty
Well,
intelligent if he's pulling scams like that.
I do believe they started locking him in at night at about 8 or 9. I mean,
So he
and
was showing signs of violence is why they were locking him in and they were
well,
afraid what he would
I
do at
would
night.
Shizzy, I would say you should go back and listen. I think it's on day 2. Listen to the victim, his testimony. It's really odd because he's very kind of flat affect, and that could be in his voice. But then when they get to some of the shenanigans he did, you can hear the smile in his voice.
Okay. Well, I'll listen for
Especially
it. I'll go back and watch that.
like when he gave his 4-year-old brother a beer just for the experimentalness, like the defense attorney said, a beer could hurt your brother. And he said, yeah, but it was an experiment. It,
So it is are they doing anything to help this kid? And I'm just curious if they've done something to help this kid or if he's just out loose and
well,
allowed to do his shenanigans.
I don't know if the state is doing anything. We're still on the state. I am woefully behind. But the defense, I hope the defense and I hope the parents, for their sake, um, have voluminous records of them taking him to different doctors. Um, my read on it from the gut, again, the parents had a bunch of different options. They did not choose the right one, but he is highly intelligent, but also he said himself that he goes into a room and he tries to pick the adult that he can manipulate.
Mm.
So, I mean, he was able to go into a classroom and tell a teacher he was there to evaluate her, and she believed him. So, you know, there's so many levels to this case because, again, we have, the state being torn up and everyone being really upset about him being locked into a box. But we have Richard Allen, who is supposed to, in theory, be considered innocent, but for his safety, we're keeping him in solitary confinement with not real Odinist, surrounding him.
Yeah.
But that's okay because for his safety. So now I will say this particular defense attorney is not the most eloquent. His his, his questions are been a bit like me this week, like a day late and a dollar short and just like discombobulated.
And who is he questioning right now?
He is questioning the state's expert. So the
Okay.
state's expert has basically just said that uh, the victim's behavior is probably most likely a reaction to being isolated from the family in this, in a room by himself, and that he has post-traumatic stress syndrome from being in the box. Um, what I have noticed about this state's expert is that he makes a lot of excuses for the victim's poor behavior. Now, he does a lot of criminal work, so I don't know if he's more of the political leaning that there is a reason for bad behavior as far as criminal behavior. There always needs to be, an antecedent or something like that. There's always a reason,
Right.
but he seems to be of that particular thought process that, we're sort of the tabula rasa, and man doesn't have evil, where it's always just something happened bad, and you
And
know
then this, yeah, manifest. I hate that kind of thinking.
but he always seems to make excuses for the bad behavior is what I've noticed, but it could be just me seeing things, who knows?
Well, and it could be that
That's
he's making, if he's for the
the
for
state.
the state, then of course he's going to find a reason for everything to take the blame away from where blame could possibly be shown. create create
You know, if
training.
I ruled the world, every teenager would have to do at least 6 months of some kind
Boot
of
camp,
community service.
some
When
sort
you're
of
18,
boot
or
camp,
maybe
yeah.
a year, we wouldn't have potholes. Like, you don't have to join the military, but you have to do something to help your general community. We lack community cohesion. You have to do something to help the people around you. So if that means, you work at a daycare, you work at a soup kitchen, whatever. But this is why I
Well,
don't run for Congress.
had a nephew that worked at a donation center, and well, he saw certain things that were coming into donation. What he would do is he would set them aside, he would purchase them, and then he would turn around and sell them for a massive profit.
Well, that's entrepreneurship.
Absolutely, absolutely, and he
Don't
was
let
doing this at 16 and raising money, and then
Hey,
was investing in the stock market.
see, why can't my girls find boys like that? No, they find the kid that wears a wool hat in summer for
Oh,
reasons.
gotta love it. Gotta love it.
Literally on February 28th, 2019, where the note says he has this is an ongoing pattern of injuring children at recess. Correct?
If it says that, yes.
You can look at it. It's in front of you.
AC, yes, I believe the defense expert will speak directly to brain scans showing atrophy in the parts of the brain that are most likely linked to bonding and attachments and possibly
That's horrible.
impulse control. She talked about it in her opening, but they did do brain scans, I believe.
You did say February 19th.
Said February 28th. 28.
Okay. Yes, it does say that.
And when
He
he
is assigned an after-school detention for 1 hour.
Okay, fair. And you said one of the examples when I said theft, you said, well, he was just found with a Texas Instruments calculator. That was a stolen calculator, correct? The parents are the
It was
ones.
not his. That's correct.
The parents found it and contacted the school to say he's got this calculator. It's not his.
Right. I believe that's right.
And the school said, oh, we've been looking for that as another student.
Sustained.
So you'd agree that this of the incidents, we have injuring other children, we have theft, correct? We have those two so far.
Yes.
All right. And it's appropriate for parents to react to that in a way to try and curb that type of behavior of their child, correct?
Depends on how they react. But yes, they should deal with it appropriately. Yes.
So, and we went through the medical records already, but at this time, he's already been seeing a therapist. He has also seen a psychiatrist, Dr. Rickenbacker, at this point already, and this conduct continues to happen, correct?
Well, you're
That'd be a
bringing up a
horrible
lot of
thing to
things
have.
from 2019, and that's around the time he was put in the box. So how much of this is acting out from being put in the box? It would be my first question.
Why is
Because
he
you
allowing this guy to
gotten
ask
a
questions?
blip.
Why is he allowing
Because
this guy to ask questions?
Because he's not a good defense attorney.
Yeah.
This
If
guy, like I said,
I'm aggravated with the defense attorney because you don't let the doctor dictate the question.
Yeah, this defense attorney has been discombobulated. That's why, honestly, I'm kind of glad I've decided to kind of scale back the take care of Maya trial to just the testimony, and I'll watch the Maya testimony with Sal and guess, because the plaintiff or Maya's attorneys are so discombobulated. It is
Yeah, I mean
harrowing.
that I'm surprised that that the attorneys are allowing this to happen. You turn to him and
Yeah,
it's just like, excuse me, are you making a statement? That's I mean,
yeah.
there's ways to stop this guy from making these kinds of things and asking questions that he shouldn't be asking, because he's dictating what the he's dictating what the questions are, and not the
Y
attorney. The attorney's
well,
lost
yeah.
control of this, and he should be putting a stop to it and objecting to his answers. Like these are not answers, and you don't have any. If you want to make a testimony, I think we've already heard that, sir. Now answer the question.
Yeah. I mean, I still
Blip up increase in his behavior issues at school.
Well, I went through I went through all of the records before that as well, and we can keep going through records in 2018. I could do those too, and you have them. And if you want, we can go through 2018.
Sustain.
Well, is it your position that this acting out that I just went through in 2019 did not occur in 2018?
We talked about some of the things that happened before, like the boy kicked him on the field, and then he punched the boy, and then the Legos incident.
And the finger and thumb incident?
Yes.
Okay. So there
Oh,
were things
yeah,
in 20.
you missed it. The psychologist basically, so the Lego incident where, the victim used his finger and thumb to push a boy up against the wall. Well, that boy had snitched on him about having Legos in his pocket. So really, by street code, snitches get stitches. So, I mean, he was
Yeah,
just re
I found that out like in the third grade when I got my head stuffed in a snowbank for snitching on a kid.
I know, but to hear it from a psychologist, he's like, "Well, but really, the other kid had snitched on him for taking Legos." I was like, "Sir, are you gonna excuse every single piece of bad behavior?" It it just really struck me that this guy is I'll have to read one of his paper, but my guess is, again, that he is well, we get sidetracked, reindeer, you know how we do.
Well, and I would think that this attorney would be able to turn this around, and he may be just looking for that particular spot to do it, to actually turn it around and say, so you're saying, every single issue that this child has presented, that there's an excuse for every single one of them, and he's not going to take any responsibility for bad actions, is what you've been telling me. And I would make it very clear, and I would say no further questions after that.
Well, let's
Give
see if he
have it interrupt him just right in the middle of it. Just say no further questions, and just
let's see if he can turn it around
I hope
'cause
so.
I'm
2018 as well,
Yes.
going from February of 2018 all the way to December of 2018.
I have October of 18, but maybe there was one in December that I didn't document.
well, we haven't got there yet. We are woefully behind. We are from the past.
Good to see you.
So on direct, you had talked a bit about the him being in essentially solitary confinement, correct?
Yes.
So it's your position that he was in that room 14 to 16 hours on a daily basis. Yes?
It's not my position. It's what the records reflect.
Which records?
All of them put together, CPT records, police interviews, collateral interviews. For instance, what said.
Bad question.
You testified on direct, you reviewed 40 videos, Ring videos, correct?
About that, yes.
And that's out of approximately 21,000 Ring videos, correct?
I don't know how many there were. I know there was a whole lot of many, many videos.
So the 40 that the state selected to give you are the ones you reviewed.
Correct.
And it is your opinion from the review of those 40 videos, is that where you get your 14 to 16 hours on a daily basis that he's in his room? We're talking about January, right? January 22.
Yes.
That's where you get that information from the Ring videos? I just don't know the basis of
No,
your-
I didn't get it from the Ring videos, no. But the Ring videos corroborate that history, that he would be woken up in the morning. He'd be asked, "Is it dirty?" referring to the plastic bucket. Then I believe he was allowed to go on to the bathroom. Then he'd go back in the box, and then the mother would take the children to school, and then she would come back and get him around 9. And then he would go back in the box after school, say, I don't know, 4:30, whatever the math would be.
Are you aware that
4:30 p.m., of course.
So I'm trying to understand the basis of where you're getting that number. That's all. So I said, is it from the 40 videos? You said it's not just from that, it's from the record. So what are you talking about? Where do you get that from? You said the CPT.
This
that
lawyer
was
is
one thing you said.
terrible.
So
Yes.
somebody, who in the CPT said that? CPT record
Because what he's going to do,
Okay.
and he's
That he
burning
was
himself
in
on
there
this
14 to 16
constantly,
hours per day.
is he
What I
keeps
had was
getting
a
that guy
ballpark
to
of
say
when he
he's
left
in the
the
box,
house,
he's in the
when he
box,
was
he's
let out
in
of
the
the
box,
box,
he's
Yeah.
in the
when he got
box.
home from after school.
See, he's
Yeah,
going to
all-
say it multiple times. He was let out of the box. He was in the box. He did something in the box. They let him out of the box. They put him back in the box, and he's going to constantly be beating that down. And this attorney is just
Could,
ruining it.
do they not have a class of how to ask a coherent question? I mean,
Apparently not for this attorney.
well, true. Maybe he took the
He must have taken
Yeah,
Georgia
well-
State Bar.
where
Sorry. So bad.
School
you're
when he
fine.
was put in the box. And then he was kept in the box, my understanding, almost every night, fed in the box.
What is the
after
box?
everybody else had
What's
ate,
in the
And then
box?
he stayed in the box throughout the night until he was let out in the morning. So if you add up the hours, it's probably, I don't know, even if you went 5 o'clock to midnight, that's 7. Then midnight to 8 is 8. So that's 15 hours. I'm just ballparking it. I don't have an exact number of hours.
If I were to tell you that
5 times.
that
Sir, make a
if the
declarative
evidence were
sentence.
to show that it is
Fuck.
no more than 10 hours a night, and at most, on occasion, a 3-hour block during a day, would that change your opinion in any way as to whether or not, and I'm not sure what your opinion was here, whether or not it was malicious?
How many times did he say box?
Any
I'm-
amount of solitary confinement for hours to me
I'm
is
with you,
is
Ed Gein.
unacceptable.
Just
There's no
stop.
justification for it, and it's cruel.
Okay. So it wouldn't change your opinion.
No,
Look, lawyer, you are never going to get this guy to agree that isolating this child. He is fully on all criminals are just Aladdin and stealing bread to feed small children. He is fully on AOC. Like uh, it's just the summer of love. That's just how it is. That's what I'm getting from this guy. Just you're not going to move that ballpark. So what you do is you say, "Oh, so you didn't look at the 21,000 videos. You just cherry-picked evidence." Okay. So you didn't think to look at other evidence. You just took what they told you to. It didn't, spark your creativity to look anywhere else. You didn't want to look deeper. You didn't want to talk to the victim, anything else.
So
Anything,
the
but
lessening of hours.
getting him
wouldn't
to
change
bring
your
up box multiple times.
opinion.
Yeah. For
And
the
so
love of
if I were to tell you that
Let him finish the question before you make your objection. Go ahead, Ms. Wright.
Sure. If I were to tell you that, hypothetically, that there,
Where is
that
the shepherd's
was,
hook to get this defense
out
attorney
with
Alf?
family on
and the
various
gong.
occasions, he participated in community events or any of those types of things, would that change your opinion in any way?
I'm aware of those episodes of being out and about. So no, I've already taken those into consideration.
If I were to tell you that he was provided a breakfast every morning from his mother, would that change your opinion in any way?
I'm aware of that already, except there were some mornings he didn't get breakfast, and it's on the Ring video as well. Him being handed, say, a banana with some peanut butter on bread.
And the banana with peanut butter on bread is not breakfast in your opinion?
I didn't say that. No.
Okay, so you said he was not given breakfast. He was handed a banana with peanut butter on bread. That's what you just said.
No, I said some days he did not get breakfast.
Okay, and then other days he got, as you said, a banana with peanut butter on bread.
My understanding, most days he was given breakfast.
So on direct, by the way, you had said that you spoke to the issue of the banana with peanut butter on bread in the context of torture. Is it your opinion that it's torturous to get a banana with peanut butter on bread for breakfast?
No,
Okay,
that's a
because I'm a big
stupid
fan of
question.
banana and peanut butter mix. So.
I am too.
Okay. And is it your opinion, or would it change your opinion if you saw videos of
We'll try
eating
again here,
dinner
Stray. Maybe the
outside
tomatoes
his
will
room
finally hit.
during that January of 22 time period?
He said that on 3 instances, he did have dinner with the family outside of the cell in January. So about one out of every, whatever it would be, 10 days, he ate with the family dinner.
And would it change your opinion if we're going to the breakfast that he had breakfast outside his room, out in the kitchen?
I don't recall seeing information on how often he was out for breakfast. My impression was from reading all the materials that he didn't go out
Okay.
for
Oh,
breakfast.
that's
So
another
there-
thing, Shizzy. So the state is also alleging that he didn't get breakfast and he was malnourished because you will hear on the Ring camera or the Ring doorbell that he gets in trouble for stealing chocolate. One of the doctors, I think I told you that they said limit sugars and things like that.
Mhm.
Well, they would give him limited access to
Sweets.
sugars, yes, to sweets. But then when asked why he had like a banana and peanut butter or something for breakfast, he said, "Oh, right, I was a pescatarian at that time." So, how do you square that circle? Your family is locking you up in a cell, so to speak, but they're also honoring your pescatarianism, which I had to look up because I was like, I thought they were Catholic.
No, not Presbyterian.
I was like, Episcopalian? What the hell are we talking about here?
What is pescatarian?
So
I've
you
never heard of
mostly
that.
eat fish and you avoid red meat.
Okay. That I can see that. So that does limit you on what you can actually feed somebody.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not supposed to make all the sense in the world. I never
Yeah, of
said
course.
it.
I mean, peanut
What is
butter's
that?
going to have sugar in it. Banana's going to have sugar in it. It's pretty hard to get food that doesn't have sugar in it. It's the high concentration of sugar, I think that they're referring to, like candy bars, chocolate,
Yeah.
sugar, gummy bears, whatever, anything that's going to have
Yeah.
that high quantity of
Well,
sugar
and I
in
know
it.
the pescatarian diet was really big among Christians a couple years ago when the Daniel diet came out.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
he was
crazy.
mad because he wanted Cheetos and candy. And look, again,
Why?
if I had a kid, I mean, yeah, if I had a kid that I'll use my family for example, youngest, most feral, shirtless Viking child has terrible teeth. So we were told no more gummy fruits. They are no longer in my house. If a kid gets gummy fruits, outside of the sight of other son, I tell them to eat them before we get home because I'm not dealing with it.
Right.
So I don't know if this family generally just operated on like, look, everyone can, we'll still buy stuff and, you just can't have it or what have you. What?
Oh,
What?
baby
Oh,
puppy.
you're getting too big. Oh,
Oh.
I love you too. I love you very not the face. I don't know if the family operated on just like, we're going to have this, but we expect you to be honorable and not take it if you're not supposed to. And he just continued to break that. But I will say, looking at what the defense has put out and what the state has also put out, you'll notice that at the beginning of the recordings, the ring recordings, his room, his cell, what have you, had a desk, had posters, had Legos, had a bunch of stuff in it. And as he continued stealing stuff, playing with electronics he wasn't supposed to have, things got taken away.
Right.
I mean, that's how we operate at our house. I mean,
Well, and it still comes down to that, if they would have given him everything, then the state would have said, well, they were supporting every single bad habit that
Yeah.
they possibly could. So if they limit his access to things, all of a sudden, oh, they're locking him in a box
yeah,
and torturing him. So I mean, you can't have it both ways, and that's typical of the state.
you can't win for
do
losing.
that. No.
Yeah, and as we said a jillionth and 10 times, they could have taken so many exit ramps,
Right.
but they didn't.
Yeah. I think, well, at one point you would just have to have the child committed if they're this aggressive and violent.
Yeah.
And that's not the way that you want to go. You want to have because then it's just pushing
yeah.
it off on somebody else to handle
it seems
something. But
yeah, it seems like they were doing everything in their power to keep him out of the system. Not calling the police when he committed credit card fraud, not calling the police when he ran away until he was gone for several days.
right.
So I don't know, but you're not going to get. Can we just stop the bleeding?
Or very rarely.
Would it change your opinion if
1 second, let me let him.
there were videos with him sitting on the couch watching TV with his dad?
My opinion about the okayness of solitary confinement? No, but I know that at times he was out of his cell and spent some time in the house with the family.
Yeah, he's like, what are you doing? Why are you sinking this case? Ooh.
Yeah, she's like, "What in the hell, dude? I have to go out there in high heels and."
She's like, please, you're ruining this. Like,
Please stop.
So fair to
Stop.
say your opinion. So give me your opinion again. In like
no.
No, dear
what is-
God,
what is
Jesus,
the
stop.
opinion you are trying to, as an expert psychiatrist, convey to this area.
When both Shizzy and I agree.
I've given multiple opinions. What opinion would you like to know that I can repeat?
Something that's something that a
You're gonna make me,
psychiatrist would opine on.
for the love of.
That the parents' treatment of was psychologically abusive. It was physical abusive. It was neglectful.
Sir, fire your attorney
Put
now.
him at a serious risk of harm and health
Get
issues.
somebody
I hope
else.
I hope you
Get-
like
get a
making
public
license
defender.
plates.
Anything. Good Lord.
Degrading. It was very.
Hope they have gator
damaging to
wrangling in
his,
prison. I don't know.
identity, his self-esteem, his whole adjustment to life, being put in this kind of a solitary confinement situation.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And knowing what
No,
RAD is,
stop
and
talking.
that
Just say
there
end of
are, as we
questions.
discussed already
Just
earlier,
stop,
that we don't know
please.
what first 17 months was like
Please.
before he was adopted. Are you taking the opinion that he does or does not suffer from reactive
Sorry,
attachment
dude.
disorder?
You're
I would concur that he had signs of reactive attachment disorder when he was younger.
On
In
the
fact, one
plus
of
side, you'll have a lot
pieces
of time
that
to
was
study your
earlier on, he
rosary.
was,
so this
early
this
toddler,
attorney is second chair to
17,
what?
He was just really resistant.
Second chair to the
female.
toilet? I
Classic
mean,
sign of
good
I
God.
reactive attachment disorder.
He's just
And that would be
he's
something in line
just
with
sinking
what was
this
happening.
guy.
he must be related to the Is he like the cousin Vinny, but not in a good way? Like the cousin Lemmy of like, look, you have to let your cousin Lemmy join your law firm. Mom, I can't. Look, he's your cousin Lemmy. You just have to let him do it. But Ma,
God, this guy is
in the
so
first 17 months of his life. correct? That would
terrible.
have been that's
yes.
a very likely cause for that reactive attachment disorder.
Knowing all we do, yes, that would line up.
Okay.
He's going great.
That
Does this attorney work for the prosecution? That's what it sounds like to me.
it doesn't help that the
And
defendants also
is
look
it
like
your
brother and
opinion
sister.
that
Oh,
that
It is
Tim
bad.
Ferritter caused the reactive attachment disorder?
No.
Okay.
Did his behavior exacerbate it and bring signs of it back? I would say yes. But
Okay.
he didn't cause it. It was caused by his first 17 or so months in Vietnam.
You also know, though, from review of all the records we've already talked about here today, that he was given medical advice and you followed that advice, right?
Sustained.
Are you aware if Mr. Ferritter was provided any medical advice to deal with the reactive attachment disorder?
That's a good question.
What I'm aware of is that Owen was taken to several counselors when he was younger. And what kind of struck me was he didn't stay with any counselor more than really a few sessions, and then he wouldn't go anymore. And then later he
Pause.
would go to another counselor and see them maybe once or twice or three times, and then it would stop. So I question why there was not consistency and
Pause.
with
Pause.
the
God.
first
Oh,
and
sorry.
second or the
Sorry.
No, he needs to stop that crap because he's
Yeah.
allowing him to ask a new
Shake-
question of himself.
Yeah.
This attorney
yeah.
needs to just
He
be on it.
it's yes, and then he doesn't need to pontificate. Well, he would go several times to here and then he would go here. It's no. Are you aware that he went to different therapists? You don't elaborate. It's a yes.
Right.
And look,
and
I don't
he
have,
needs to stop him and say, listen, it's a yes or no question.
but this
And
again,
uh,
cousin Lemmy is not very good at this.
no,
or the third counselor to try to treat his problems. I don't know the answer to that.
And is it, if I were to tell you hypothetically that that Tim Ferritter was provided medical guidance from all the records we've looked at, and that he attempted to follow that as best he and his family could under the circumstances, would that change your opinion in any way?
objection.
Approach.
If I was to tell you that a train was leaving Texas on, no, stop with the hypothetical questions. Sir, just stop. Can we switch up lawyers midway?
I mean, he is the worst at this.
Yeah, it just, well, he already kind of bungled it because he said what did he said psychiatry, or he mixed up two very
Psychology.
similar, psychology and psychopathy. So
Wow.
he thought that he was diagnosing him with psychopathy at one point. So he had an entire line of questions about psychopathy when he was just talking about
If the objection
psychology.
is sustained, you need to rephrase, Mr. Wahid.
Jesus.
So, doctor, if
If I had
Mr.
a
Ferritter was
relevant
provided
question,
medical advice and relied upon it, would that change your opinion?
About
Well,
his treatment
What?
in the solitary confinement or the physical abuse. I mean, no, I don't see how it
no,
would.
you stop
I
that
don't
shit
think
right
anybody-
now.
Any
Jesus
professional
Christ.
gave him advice to put your child in solitary confinement or
Shizzy,
Sure.
we're
to
gonna-
abuse the
I
child or
can't
withhold meals
drink.
for
I
punishment
can't drink. I can't.
or take his one book away. as
can't be a
punishment, turn
drinking
the lights
streak.
out. No, I don't.
No.
It wouldn't.
In terms
No,
of
no,
if
no
any of the
drinking.
behavior of Tim Ferritter, would it
That's it. I
you
need a
believe
hook
it was in
animation,
response to-
a
we had
shepherd's
conversation
hook.
earlier about chicken and egg, or you did. So your position is that Mr. Farrader's the chicken and the egg. Based on that question I just asked you, which is if hypothetically Mr. Farrader was provided medical advice and relied upon it in his journey with Rome,
We're going to say
does that
objection.
change your opinion as to who's the chicken and who's the egg in this scenario?
No, that is a horrible question.
The easy answer is
Objection.
no. I don't know how it would.
Yeah, that's a horrible
As I said
question.
earlier, Mr. Farrader didn't
Hang
cause
up
the
your
original
hang up your
reaction. That's
attorney's
what
hat
the problem.
just
Just
for the day.
so did Mr. Farrader. So the short answer you just gave is no, it wouldn't change your opinion.
I can
correct?
neither agree nor I can neither avow or disavow that, but I can concur.
Yeah, the defense attorney asked too many questions. He's not gonna trip him up. Where'd this guy go to law school?
On direct, you talked about the juvenile detention center. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And you were talking about what the confinement looks like, correct?
Yes.
And you were talking about how it isn't pitch black in there.
Right.
All right. But there is a thing called lights out at a juvenile detention center, correct?
Yes, but there's enough lighting where officers can do their rounds and look in and see all the kids. So it's not pitch black, but the lights are dimmed down, so it's easier for the kids to sleep.
You wrote an article that I reviewed where you talked about
Don't
the type
care.
of violence that happens at juvenile detention centers, correct?
You mean towards the kids?
Yes, towards the kids or from the kids to each other.
Object as to relevance.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Sustained. Unless you want to approach Mr. Wahid.
No, no. We're just going to answer for you, sir. You don't want to approach. You want to stay with the hell where you are.
Small brain here.
It's fair to
This
say
guy
you've
has such
written
a small brain.
substantially on juvenile crime, correct?
Yes. Juvenile violence and homicide in particular, yes.
And you're familiar with the term school to prison pipeline, correct?
Object as to relevance.
Sustained.
As far as you
Where
know,
are you
based on all the
going?
records you reviewed,
He doesn't
Farrader never
know.
called the police on his child, did he?
Object as to relevance.
Sustained.
Yeah, this isn't the guy you need to be asking. Just
And
there's a reason. There's
Can
a
I-
reason why attorneys have trial prep because they already know
Yeah.
the answer to the question that they're asking.
yeah,
They know what the guy's going to say. They know how to word it. This guy did not do any research. He's just randomly throwing crap at the wall and hoping that something sticks. Nothing is going to stick because he
Yeah,
doesn't know
well-
what the hell he's doing.
well, also he's trying to, as an attorney, you should be able to very quickly discern whether you're going to be able to get a person to
Let me ask you
change their
about,
mind. And if
What are
you,
the options
aren't-
for parents who
But
have a
don't-
child
don't
with
bring any
brain
of this
attachment
up.
disorder in
yeah,
terms of private pay solutions?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
Go sidebar, Judge, on that.
You can approach.
Of course, they would have to have a sidebar. And this guy's going, yeah, well, I'm getting paid by the hour. You can keep just asking me questions.
yeah. Well, and what kills me is this could have all been avoided had this family, who it looks to be fairly affluent, and I've heard from viewers in Florida that Jupiter is a fairly affluent area, if they had just bought a house with a freaking mother-in-law's quarters.
It wouldn't have mattered. Kid would have found ways to still be problematic.
Well, yeah, but then we would have had, he lives in the mother-in-law's quarters. So it would have
So
been
why did they
his-
separate him from the family? Why is he not in the main house?
because
what-
he was running away. He had given his little brother a beer. He was
All right, the
violent with
objection
other
is
children.
sustained. Next question.
I said they would have found a reason for that.
Dr. Now,
Also.
a couple hours ago, I asked you about the ability to opine on a diagnosis without having evaluated a patient or an individual.
Yes, Jake. We
And
need a
you'd asked me
Rosemary.
to show you the section may I approach, Judge?
You can approach Ms. Coakley first.
Yes.
When does that sentencing happen?
2
can
weeks
approach
after the verdict was, so next Thursday, I believe. Be correct.
Oh.
I think that's right. I think they set it out for 2 weeks out. Yeah, this. Jesus.
Take the mic with you if you're going to be speaking.
Again,
Showing you the section 7, and I think I earlier stated it was section 7 sub 3 of the principles of medical ethics with annotations, especially applicable to psychiatrists.
19th. And I want to be
See,
on
that's-
with Baker when they do that sentencing, Jamie. Just I know you're probably hanging
Yeah,
out.
me
with Baker,
too.
so just let him know that I want to be there for that if I'm able to.
This is called the Goldwater rule. Had to do with Barry Goldwater when he was running for president. And there was a poll about whether he was fit to be president or not. That's where this came from.
yeah. Could we go back and could we get Barry Goldwater? Because pretty sure that's where things went to crap. Sorry, Mr. Goldwater. We want you to have run.
From. I've been in committees trying to rewrite this because I was on the ethics committee for 18 years. So I'm very familiar with this. And that doesn't exclude us if we're asked for a professional opinion.
What is the rule?
Unless you've been granted proper authorization for such a statement. So being an expert witness for the court would be proper authorization to offer my professional opinions.
If you could just read
Yes.
the whole thing for the jury, just because they don't know what you're looking at.
Okay. On occasion, psychiatrists are asked for an opinion about an individual who is in the light of public attention and who has disclosed information about himself, herself through public media. That is, that person in the light of attention. In such circumstances, a psychiatrist may share with the public his or her expertise about psychiatric issues in general. However, it is unethical for a psychiatrist to offer a professional opinion unless he or she has conducted an examination and has been granted proper authorization for such a statement. And it
There you
should
go.
stay there from that person.
That's
in light
not
of public attention.
what
So
it
this is
says.
really about
Not what it should say. What it says. Stop him right there.
talking heads getting on TV and talking about somebody and making a psychiatric diagnosis, say some serial killer or some other typical.
Has to
ritual
do it
crime.
here
A
also.
psychiatrist will make opinions without having done an examination.
Don't let this guy
Without
explain.
having anything to go on other than what they
Excuse
learned
me,
about
sir.
from,
Can
say,
you
the
please
media.
stop?
So it's trying to stop that sort of attention-seeking behavior. by
Stop
people who want
pontificating.
That's an opinion.
to get
That's
attention
your opinion,
on
sir. Please
watching
stop.
head shows.
That's your
Agreed.
opinion. All right. So you're
There's
offering
no
an opinion.
exception in the rule, though, written, correct?
Unless you're granted appropriate legal authorization or whatever it is. Yes.
No, that's your
Thank you.
opinion.
Good
Okay.
question.
So then the next question would be, but you've been given an authorization from the state, but you have never physically talked to the victim. Is that correct? Yes or no? And then you say, and then when he tries to pontificate, no, yes or no. Did you talk to the victim? Did you conduct a psychological profile
Exactly.
or a
Because
forensic interview with the victim?
because all he has to say is they will have a chance to recross and clear this up. Not here,
Yeah.
Your Honor. Not here, Your Honor. Not here, Your Honor. I object. I object to his answer in the way that he's answering and everything that you can possibly do to make this guy stop. And they're just not doing it.
The last 14 minutes is just this guy just talking. I
All
think.
right. Ms. Coakley, how long do you expect on your redirect? Because we've been going over an hour. I want to give the. All right, I'm going to give the jury a 10-minute break then before we go to the redirect. It's 4:20. We'll be in recess until 4:30.
I do like that court or law and crime is now just cutting
Same-
the
same
breaks
instruction.
right out.
Yeah.
But it's confusing
All right,
to
everyone
me.
can be seated. Before I let the attorneys go, my feeling is that we'll conclude with his redirect and then we'll be done for the day.
I decided to put in a few more ring videos, and so I have the witness here just to put those in. That should be like 1 minute.
Okay, but my understanding was you have a substantial amount of other publications or publishing that you're going to do, so that's going to have to wait until tomorrow.
That's perfectly fine, Your Honor, but if I could, can I just put that witness on quickly after that?
Oh, you have another witness?
Yeah, I can put the detective on again. to see
All right, we need to squeeze every minute out of the day that we have. So if you can finish that witness and we don't keep the folks, because one of the jurors indicated a problem staying after 5 days. So I don't want to push that. All right, that'll be fine. Okay, all right, good enough. All right, sir, you can step down during the break and just, obviously, same instruction, don't speak with anyone regarding your testimony.
He doesn't need to speak into
All right, all set,
anybody.
ready to
He's
proceed?
got him beat.
All right, let's let the witness take the stand again. Do we have the witness? All right, Mark, as soon as the witness takes the stand, you can bring the jurors out. All rise.
Good idea.
Horrible. Horrible, 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 horrible.
I feel mean to the judge.
All right,
I've
we're ready
made
to
him the boss Nash or Nass from Star Wars. Jar Jar
All right,
Binks'
Ms. Coakley, you may go ahead and
boss.
begin.
So just to go back to that Goldwater doctrine, are you allowed to opine on whether or not the president of the United States has a psychological condition based on their interviews on television?
No.
Are
It's
you,
considered unethical to do that.
would you be allowed to just watch the TV coverage of this case and come in and do an opinion?
No.
Is it
Have
permissible
they been alive in
to, as
2016?
part of a court proceeding,
Mhm.
review all the records involved and opine in certain circumstances?
Yes.
Now, there was a lot of questioning on cross-examination about whether or not Tim Ferritter acting
No,
on the
he's not.
advice of medical personnel would change your opinion. Was there any indication in the record you reviewed that the defendant in this case was advised to treat his son how he did?
No, there was not.
Was there any indication
Objection.
from any of the people involved
Objection.
that it was appropriate
Objection.
to confine his child for multiple hours a day?
No.
Hey, Christine.
Was there any indication that any medical professional ever told him that he should keep his child in a room in the dark for hours during the day?
No.
Objection,
Was there
Your
any
Honor.
indication that any medical professional said that the child should be deprived of access to a bathroom?
Facts not in
No.
evidence. Objection.
Would that be a medically acceptable treatment for any condition?
Objection.
No.
Objection.
I
Now-
can't think of one.
What, you can't think of one?
I can't.
Now, I want to talk for a second about some of the specifics that you testified to. There was a little bit of a talk about the oppositional defiant disorder diagnosis by Ms. Martin. Was she a doctor or a clinical licensed social worker?
She's a social worker.
So that wasn't a diagnosis that was done by a doctor.
Correct.
In addition,
Oh.
that was in the year, what year thereabouts was that?
That should have been 2015. When he
Um,
was, let's see, 8.
2015 or would it be 6?
It was 2015.
Leadings at the sustained rephrase.
Well, how old would he have been?
He was 8.
And in general, did you see or were you able to tell how often he was there was any kind of intervention for that, or how often he met that licensed clinical social worker?
Sorry.
Okay.
I was looking.
Was it more than a
Yeah, you
handful
were
of
looking
times?
for
I'm wrong.
answers.
It was, yes. Okay. I'm with you. We're talking about Kathleen Martin.
Right.
Yes. And that was, I have in my records, September to November of 2015, when he would have been 8 in second grade.
So a 3-month period?
If that, I have, I could only find 3 sessions, the intake and then a couple of those, a couple others.
And in reviewing of the records that were made available to you, is she the only practitioner that found that oppositional defiant disorder?
Susan Martin in the same year, a counselor also who saw him, very limited notes from her as well, but she had
Counselor.
ODD as a diagnosis or possibility.
And would that not reflect later on? Was that reflected in the findings of the other people he saw, like in 2018 and 2019? Which would be like Dr. Reinbacher.
Yeah, he focused more on the ADHD. I believe ODD may have surfaced. I'm not
Now,
positive.
or was he, take a look, was he just reactive attachment disorder and ADHD?
Yes.
Now,
Not
is
objecting.
there
Susie,
a
these people don't know how to
for
say
oppositional
that
defiant
word.
disorder, if it in fact is accurate?
I feel like I'm back in the Rittenhouse
Does it involve
trial.
locking a child in a room?
Yes.
No.
Does it involve isolation or confinement of a child?
No.
Objection, Your Honor.
Would it be just therapy and medicine?
Yes.
Now, is there any indication that that was pursued beyond those 3 appointments that you told us about?
No, and that's what I could never sort of find a reason in these couple therapists he went to as to why.
Just
it
watch
stopped
this
after
attorney,
one or
how
two or
he
three
just
sessions.
sits
There was no
there
sort of
like he's
explanation.
watching somebody else's trial.
Now, we also
Like
discussed
he's
with
not
defense
invested.
that there was
Yeah,
diagnosis at some point in his history for ADHD.
I'm just sitting there watching. He's like,
Is
He's-
confining a child a treatment for that?
No.
Now, we talked about what Dr. Reichenbacher found between 2000 and the end of 2018 and the beginning of 2019 about how old was at that point.
He would have been 11 at that time.
And even then, with the reactive attachment disorder and the ADHD, is it a treatment for a reactive attachment disorder to confine a child for long periods of time?
No.
And in Dr. Reinbacher's records, is there a reflection or a consideration about whether or not it is experiencing aggression?
You're saying, does it address that?
Yeah, does it address whether or not that is a symptom that is he is struggling with?
Well, January, it says of 2019, it says he's doing better with not getting angry and he's been apologizing. And then in May, it says he's not having severe aggression and that he's having adequate behavior at school. And that's in May of 2019.
And is that based on the records that you reviewed, the last professional intervention with a psychiatrist, psychologist, or a clinical social worker in 2019?
Yes,
And-
that's it.
In total, about how many times did he even see Dr. Reichenbach?
A handful of times, 4 or 5, maybe 6, something like that.
Now, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. You said four, 5, or 6 times?
4 or 5, maybe 6.
Now, you mentioned that you had some disagreements about, or maybe some questions about the diagnoses that Dr. Reichenberger came to. Is it important for a psychiatrist when making a differential diagnosis to know something like the conditions in which the child is living?
It's extremely important. Yes. I mean, is the child being abused? Is the child being neglected? Is the child in solitary confinement? And around the end of the time that Dr. Reichenbacher was seeing him, that was occurring. And there's nowhere in the notes he had any idea of that.
Would that be important information that would influence an expert making an opinion about the cause of some type of behavior by a child?
No, absolutely. That would be a huge influence on your assessment of why the child's having problems at school.
I want to talk for a second about some of the school misbehaviors that the defense went into. We talked about behaviors that started occurring in a cluster in February of 2019. Does that coincide with when he starts to be confined in a room in a garage in Arizona?
Yes, it does.
And can that type of treatment impact his behavior?
I believe it would have had a huge impact on his behavior. Yes.
Now, when we talk about like the correspondence for these types of behavioral problems, are you also seeing very minor infractions committed behaviorally?
Yes.
Things like bad language,
Yes.
stealing a piece of candy.
Yes.
Now, are those, even with the acts of a mutual combat with another child, getting into a fight with another child, are those the level of behavioral issues that you would expect with a child that has a severe conduct or attachment disorder?
He doesn't have a conduct disorder per se. I mean, that's a diagnosis.
No,
I would say
her
it's conduct
tone,
disorder.
her
I don't
tone
think
is
you mean
very
that.
annoying. Her
What do you mean?
cats do not like
You mean
her.
a behavioral?
Yes,
a
it's
behavioral-
someone who has a behavioral problem that is clinically severe.
She probably also
Would
has
you
those weird
expect to
hairless
see
cats.
a higher
I mean,
level of behavioral problems in their life?
Well, yeah, you would. Even with a child with reactive attachment disorder, they're going to, or symptoms of it, they're going to have some delay and maybe not, they're not going to be so great at their psychosocial skills, their social skills. So they can get into more likely to get into conflicts or be teased by other kids.
As far as like the level of adverse behaviors that his experience is indicating, would you consider these to be severe behaviors that based on the records from the school?
No, not at all. But one of the most telling things is he never even got suspended. So often in my own practice, for instance, I'll see kids that age, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15. If they get into a fight, they get suspended. It's sort of like the intent of the child and how severe is it. And so he's never once been suspended, which really tells you that nothing really rose to a particularly severe level of aggression.
That fist fight that we read that email about, did both children get punished?
They did, yes.
Now, did you see in the review of the records, was there any indication that at any point had an IEP or any kind of individual educational plan to address behavioral issues at the school?
No, I didn't see that. No.
Was there an indication that the school was told that he didn't have behavioral issues in some cases?
That he did or didn't?
Did not.
Yes, there were.
Tell us about that.
Well, there's some notes from the school that say that in general been doing fine this year, and there hasn't been any problems. And then the other thing is when I had mentioned how many days of school he's been in the, say, the 5 years up to being put in the box, we're really talking about hundreds and hundreds of days of
Box.
school, and yet we only have these isolated handful of events, whatever it is, 10 or 15, based on the email. So
Hey, I have to
really, you're
jump off
talking about
now.
a boy who's
I've got-
getting in
Oh, no
trouble.
problem.
I've got
Not
someone
sorry.
coming
at
in,
all.
so I will catch
What-
up with you.
Would
I
you like
just
to
have-
drift at all? Or
No,
okay,
not right now. I do have to go.
bye. All righty. Well, goodbye, Shizzy, and goodbye, Fry. Apparently, no one loves me. It's okay. We'll finish up
Oh, when
this
you look at
train
the
wreck.
180 school days a year.
Now, when we're talking about the communication that the defendants had with the child's school, indicating that they were notified of the punishment and they were going to address it, is there any indication that the defendants notified the school that the way that they were going to address it was to confine the child in a room in their garage?
No,
Did they ever inform the school of the living situation of which they were subjecting the child to?
no.
Now, you also talked briefly about a report by another licensed clinical social worker, Kenny Miller. In reviewing his report, was there a bias in his report that you perceived?
I need you to approach.
I really want to get some purple shampoo for the state's attorney with the blonde highlights. Yeah, I don't, yeah, like you're going to tell the school that you're.
Objection sustained. Rephrase the question, Ms. Copeland.
The report of the social worker, Kenny Miller, did you take into consideration the timing of when it was issued?
Yes, I did.
When was it issued?
After the Fairders were arrested.
And was it based in large part on their representations to Mr. Miller?
It was, yes.
And so did that have an impact on how much you weighed his conclusions?
It did, yes, because I didn't see that he had any exposure or access to all the other information in this case that would have, I think, improved his ability to understand what exactly was going on with in the parenting.
Now, lastly, the defense asked you about your ability as a psychiatrist to opine that something is malicious. Is it in your realm of expertise to make a clinical assessment of parents' behaviors, especially in the cases of abuse?
Oh, yes. I mean, commonly.
Is that something that psychiatrists, medical doctors like yourself, especially forensic psychiatrists, commonly do?
Yes.
And based on all your training and experience and also the active literature, are you able to, as a psychiatrist, to opine that this conduct was malicious and harmful?
Yes, and those physical abuse or psychological abuse, emotional abuse, neglect, those are actually diagnostic categories in the DSM.
That
So
you
we need to put those in the record when we believe that they're occurring, so we have an accurate representation in the medical record of what we have opined about the patient.
you believe that was occurring here?
I believe what?
Do you believe that was occurring here, abuse and neglect?
Yes.
That's all the questions I have.
All right, sir, that concludes your testimony. Approach.
Interesting. They haven't generally done recross, so I wonder if the judge is going to allow this.
All right, the request for recross is denied. That concludes your testimony, sir. You may step down. Thank you for being here. You have one more witness. It's going to be very quick, Ms. Coakley. All right, call your next witness.
All right. So let me clear this banner. Let's see who their last witness is. Oh, I believe, okay, so this is the Agent Lowe, I believe.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
All right, Ms. Coakley, you may begin.
Detective Lowe, can you just introduce yourself quickly?
Yes, I'm Christopher Lowe, agent with the Jupiter Police Department, and my role there is a digital forensic agent.
We met you yesterday
Yes,
and
ma'am.
talked to you a lot. Did you make a further further exhibits for the court as it relates to some of the ring video?
I did.
Yesterday, we entered in a few videos related to the rocks and the shells. Did you expand that time period to include those videos that are already admitted, but also the surrounding time frame of that?
Yes,
Are that is what contains on these USB drives?
Correct.
Are they a true and accurate depiction of the videos that you retrieved from Ring as a result of the lawful search warrant in this case?
they are.
Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to move them in as.
Your next number is 20 and 21.
I'll do them, yes.
You've got two, is it 20 and 21?
Yes, sir.
Any objection? All right, court receives and accepts States Exhibit 20 and 21 in evidence without objection.
That's all the questions I have, Your Honor.
All right, any cross? All right, sir, that concludes your testimony. You may step down. Thank you for being here again. And you're not excused from all proceedings yet, as you know. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we're late in the day now, so we're going to go ahead and break. We're still in the stage portion of the case that will continue tomorrow. As I advised you this morning, because of my expectation that we are behind schedule, we're going to try to squeeze as much out of the days going forward as possible so we can get this trial concluded. Which means for tomorrow, your schedule is going to be different than it was today. I'm shooting for an 8:30 sharp start time for the trial. I've cleared my morning docket, so
Yes.
everything is put in place so that 8:30 should not be a problem. You need to check in with the jury office no later than 8 o'clock and meet my deputy at the elevators by quarter after, so he can get you in the jury room, you can get settled, and then we'll shoot for the 8:30 start time. Remember, during the break, don't discuss the case with each other or anyone else, do any kind of research. And again, I know at the risk of stating the obvious at this point, make sure you do everything possible to avoid any inadvertent media exposure. Because I don't know that I asked you that. I think I did ask you that this morning. I'm trying to ask it every morning. I will ask you that again tomorrow to make sure that no one has been exposed inadvertently to any media exposure. So with that same instruction, go home, rest, relax, have a good dinner, and I'll see you tomorrow morning. All right, everyone may be seated. So before I let you folks go, you can be seated. Where are we with the state's case at this point? How much more video do you anticipate publishing? So the state's case will take the better part, or maybe it sounds like the entirety of the morning, so we should anticipate starting the defense case probably shortly after lunch. Is that a fair estimate? Ms. Black's rolling her eyes, so I'm thinking that may mean that I'm off on my estimate.
I just have to get my marriage license at 1:30.
Well, we can allow that. But we can work the schedule. That's within the courthouse here, right? Yeah, we can work the schedule out. If the video recording is 4 hours, if that's what you anticipate publishing, that's going to take us with breaks and stuff. We're going to be to 12:30 or 1 anyway, and maybe we break late for lunch and make it from 1 to 2. But in any event, the anticipation is to start the defense case tomorrow sometime in the afternoon, which based on the timing and chronology of things at this point, we are assured of going into Tuesday. And then I'll make a decision tomorrow of whether it's going to be Tuesday, Thursday, or Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. I will tell you the odds are it's going to be Tuesday, Thursday. I still need to address the one issue with the juror tomorrow morning with respect to the flight arrangements. And depending on what her situation is, apparently she's asking now. So what is she asking for? Whether she could be reimbursed or she can't be reimbursed. I've already done the background work on that. So she has it would be $140 per ticket, so $280 cancellation fee. I'm inclined not to force her to have to cancel, so I would give consideration to starting it on Wednesday. And that's gonna require significant changes on my part with the schedule next week. But I'll make that decision tomorrow. I'm not prepared to tell her what I'm gonna do today. Okay. All right, anything else I need to address before we break for today? Tomorrow will be a long day. My plan is to go from 8:30 to 6.
Hi, Fry. I
although
know you're
Be
way.
guided somewhat by what you tell me, Ms. Murad, and you, Mr. Wahid, as to where you are. You know you're going to get
Gonna
all
take a
day
walk.
Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday, one of those days. So if it makes sense to break at 5, you tell me. And as long as we're not pushing it into another day other than Tuesday or Wednesday.
I would ask to break at 5 tomorrow. So I have 3 witnesses that are civilians I can put on tomorrow, 2 of which are by Zoom. I don't think they will be that long.
Okay.
We have our own videos that we need to play. In light of how long these videos are taking, I'm inclined to limit my publishing and do it during closing, just so that they don't have to, I'll be going so close to the closing argument, I'm not going to much right?
Right.
But I need Agent Flo, and it's better for him to come on Tuesday.
I mean, I've already let her know. I will stipulate that the videos are authentic. I may have some, that if they're from the ring search warrant, I may have some objections to their admissibility otherwise, but I'm not gonna require her to authenticate them through Agent Lowe.
Is that the only reason you would need Agent Lowe is for the authentication?
We do have to establish some stuff for a possible lost evidence instruction. That
Don't
would be
play
very
with
difficult.
cords. No, sir.
All
We
right,
just
so
need to get through these.
you
last
do what you have
couple
to do.
minutes, and then we'll go on a walk.
If you're trying to
and go on-
establish that, I don't know how I'm assuming the state wouldn't stipulate to that, right? Okay. All right. Well, if you want
Robert.
to break at 5, I don't think I have a real problem, given the fact that we're not going to finish tomorrow.
I know.
Under any stretch of the imagination. Yeah, I'll let you know tomorrow as to the moving parts here in terms of the schedule. The one juror doesn't return until Tuesday night. So I have to make a decision whether I bust the jury in terms of knocking, she's in the number 5 spot and bringing in the alternate or to keep it intact. My strong preference would be to try to keep it intact and start Wednesday, but I have to make a decision whether that's the most efficient use of resources and time and their time at this point. So I'll give that some consideration tonight and make a decision tomorrow.
Okay.
All right, speak into the microphone. I don't want another call from recording.
Once we get to the defense case, the state would be inclined, we would want to renew our objection to Kellen McCoy, which is the teacher, as being cumulative. They did ask about that she's the one that testifies that she works at Immaculate Heart and went into the classroom and embarrassed his sister. They did ask about that on the stand. He did admit that happened. That's not an issue in dispute. And so it would be cumulative at this point, in cumulative bad character evidence, to call a witness just to reiterate the same thing.
Okay, all right, so I'll address that when it comes up. You have something you need to add, Ms. Wade?
Yes. So this is more on scheduling, really. If I heard right, the court said Tuesday or Thursday?
Yeah.
Or
but
Tuesday
that-
and Thursday, I'm sorry?
Yeah, that's all in flux, because I've got to make a decision what I do with juror number 5, because if I decide to do everything possible to keep her in the original panel, that means we would have to start Wednesday instead of Tuesday. And I might do that. But start Tuesday or? That's kind of the way I'm leaning, only because I know the thought and consideration that goes into both sides decisions with respect to the original panel of
Okay.
6. I assume that
yes, I
that
see
probably,
you.
would that be your preference as well?
I do.
Well,
I really
honestly,
do.
Part of the reason is because obviously it's delays is one of the issues. And I think there's 3 alternates. So
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I don't,
I do.
You don't have a position strongly one way or the
at the
other?
moment, I would rather keep it moving than that. And one of the reasons, judges, I actually have on the 12th, which is Thursday next week,
I do.
a whole day of death penalty oral arguments set. So that's just something that is looming for me.
Well, I don't even want to tell you the amount of rescheduling I'm going to have to do as well. So I'll make a decision tomorrow, and so I give them clarity as to what's going to happen.
Here.
So it's the last thing, near and dear to everyone's heart, jury instructions. I don't think I need jury instructions until whatever first day we start back next week. So just keep that in
love you
mind.
too.
Anything else? Likely we'll, we'll get that tomorrow. That'll be done before we start the defense case. Okay.
Oh,
All
there
right,
we
good.
go.
I'll see everybody tomorrow for an 8:30 sharp start time. Thank you.
Oh.
Court is in recess.
Oh, thank you, Fry. Yes, I love you very much too. Yeah, I've noticed that the court has been really not as busy as I thought it would be, which is really odd. I thought that it would be much more busy, to be honest. But I think that as more has come out about the trial, people are are feeling a little bit different. Not to mention, things, other life things are happening in the world. And I don't think that, this is as important. It is important. I'm not saying it's not, but I don't think current event wise, it's as hyper sensitive as it were. Would you stop? Fry Bartow, you are being a booger. I understand. You would like to go out. Yeah, I was worried about that. I was like, who the hell is going to die because of this man? Fry, yes, I understand. You would like to go out. Well, that is it for me today.
Good morning, everyone. You may be seated.
Nope. Nope. No, not. Hey, no. Yeah, look. We're all set up to start tomorrow. Fry, stop. I will see you all tomorrow, bright and early. We will try to get through to day 4. And then Saturday, we should get through day 5. I'm not sure if we're going to have a verdict before the weekend's out. I know they've done closing arguments. I am not quite. All right, we're out of here. Fry says we're done. We are done. We are done. So thank you everyone for watching. I appreciate it. And, join me later tonight for Nightly Newsy News for more crime, current event, court, chaos, all the fun stuff. I will see you all later.